Hello and welcome to another episode of the Underhive Lorekeepers podcast. This episode proudly sponsored by Nine-Toed Nancy's Nasty Noodles. If you can find a nastier noodle, don't eat it. That's just dumb. As always, I am Spamuel, and to my right, the mistakenly mantis-like Manvin himself, Nathan. How are you, buddy?
I'm very well. Mistakenly mantis-like. That's just certainly different. Speaking of different, what are we no longer the number one law podcast anymore? No, we've got sponsorship through the Underhive.
We have sponsorship through the Underhive. No, I don't actually think there are any other Necromunda lore podcasts, so we would be the number one, but we would also be the worst.
Oh. Well, you could do it as Cristiano Ronaldo did it many, many years ago. They asked him, who's the number one player? And he was like, me. And then they said, well, who's the number two? He's like, well, if I'm number one, that makes me number two and number three as well. Like, I'm king of the heap, no matter what. But that also relates to what you're saying. If we're number one and we're the only one, then we're also number billion.
I don't know who that person is.
Ronaldo. Cristiano Ronaldo. He's a famous Underhiver. What? What's the matter with you?
I genuinely think you're talking about a tennis-like player.
Oh, God. Okay. No.
Golf?
Yeah. There we go. Golf. I'll let you run with that.
Okay.
So, no, I like our new intro. I was, obviously, guys, well, I guess it's our second season. It's
Season. Oh yeah, it's season 2.
Yeah, but like we're not hard and fast about necessarily when the season starts and when the season ends in terms of how many episodes you're going to get per season. But I think when we find a natural evolutionary end to a season, we kind of put the pin in it there and move into our next one. So yeah, welcome to episode 1, season 2.
Okay, I just wanted to make a couple of dumb comments about noodles, and you have turned this into, like, a genuine reason.
Okay.
We pre-planned that. We are very organised here. And, okay, Nathan, we have finished all of the gang episodes. We've finished season 1 of Underhive Lorekeepers.
Yes.
I think it's time for a retrospective. How have you felt about the last year? What's been going on? Have you grown as a person? Do you think you're now a better husband and father?
Can I get some of those noodles you mentioned, please?
They are not noodles, and also, weirdly enough, I did eat noodles for lunch today, and they were cooked by a fat man, and I'm 90% sure his, wok was powered by a plasma pistol. That thing was roasty toasty.
Yeah. No, I'm doing very well. In terms of a retrospective, I know you're trying to put it on as a bit of a joke question. I only have one thing to say about our retrospective, and that is, it is pronounced Delacroix.
I knew it. I knew as soon as you seemed to be taking that question seriously, I was just like, no, this is a Delacroix joke.
Yeah. There's still
I routinely get people cracking it at me.
Yeah, you showed me something recently where it had just sparked off again. Where people are just like, it's Delac, Frenchie. I was like, oh, okay. Right, okay. Well,
I did get the recommendation to every time you say Delacroix to mute you and insert someone with a very thick American accent saying Delac. Just over you, so it will just purposefully be completely different to the way you speak. I'm putting serious consideration into it. I think it would be very funny.
I think you would definitely put in the consideration and the thought, but then there's the work that gets attached with it. So I don't know if you're going to do that
Yeah.
bit, considering you are an electrician. So that's what
An
they're
electrician
asking.
and a garbage human.
Yeah, what they're basically saying is, hey, pick up the broom, and you're like, ooh, yucky.
The what?
Exactly. The what? Is that the thing that the apprentice uses? Oh, okay.
I don't recall that part of my apprenticeship. I think I blocked it out.
So, yeah, I guess the same question for you. What are you looking forward to into, I guess, our next venture?
Now that we've gone through the sort of core of Necromunda, and really getting into it with this episode, but looking at some of the more outer limits and abstract stuff, some of the stuff that, the stuff that we're only really getting lore for now, the noble families, the different guilds, the criminal organizations, the cults, the wider imperial perspective of Necromunda.
Yeah, cool. I think I like that as well. You sort of talk about the imperial families. That's something that I really want to get involved in as well, with the noble houses and so forth. That's it's something that it almost vanishes in the gang books sometimes, because you get to the meat and potatoes of it, and then they're like, here's House Kawara and here's House Ranlow or whatever, and you're sort of like, I've already built my gang. Worry about that stuff later.
Yeah.
I'll let the arbitrator come in and tell me how they're going to influence what's going on in this campaign. But the main core of it is that I have built my gang, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so it'll be fun to dabble in those.
exactly. But before we do that, we have some regular segments to get into. And my friend, it might have taken an entire season. And especially after you interrupted my attempting to read some of these during our Van Sar episode, which quickly...
My Van Sar episode.
Your Van Sar episode,
Yeah, okay.
sorry. Which just quickly was the most listened to episode we ever had in its first 5 days, hitting more than 1,000 listens.
Wow.
Yeah, it literally, for the first 5 days, it had, I think the highest was 310 listens on the first day, or downloads, or streams, or something.
Yeah.
And then sort of petered off, and it came into about 1,100 listens after 5 days, which is ridiculous.
That's actually incredible. I did not realise those numbers. Wow.
Yeah,
That is
so
fun.
congratulations to you and your
Yes.
Van Sar episode.
That's clearly what happened. People just got an inkling. Maybe people who have not listened to the podcast, maybe, they've missed an episode and they're like, something in the universe tells me I should listen. And that something is the ever omnipresent focus of Nathan looking upon me and saying, listen, make this the best. So, yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks very much for making me clearly the superior host.
Now, I hope you're feeling really good right now. Like you should be feeling really good.
This feels like
Because
you're going to shoot me down.
I am going to knock you down a peg or two.
Oh, okay.
I have 5 tasty corrections here, and let's go through those one
Okay,
by one.
go for your life.
The first one comes in from a mate of ours through the show, Hairy Bob. And I believe it goes back to when we were talking about it on the Corridor episode. I think we were talking about the warp grenades, the
Vortex grenade.
the vortex
Oh,
grenades.
you got corrected in the correction section.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's not from a listener. It doesn't count. And you mentioned that you played a game where a stratagem killed like 40 of your guardsmen at once.
Yeah, wiped out the majority of my guardsmen straight away. Like
Yeah.
anybody who wasn't in a vehicle was toast.
Yeah. And that was for the virus outbreak. And that used the rules for the virus grenade, not a rad or vortex grenade.
Well, I never said vortex grenade. I wouldn't have said that. Can I say something back here, or do you want to?
No.
No.
The next one there comes from... Okay.
I'm going to say something back.
You can say something.
Firstly, okay, pour one out for the poor guardsmen that died on that battlefield. Thanks for being so callous,
Of course.
Harry Bob.
Of course. They dined at the Emperor's right hand.
Yep. So, secondly, I wouldn't have said vortex grenade, so we can eliminate that. And thirdly, there's also a statute of limitations on these corrections, and because that was something that happened probably closer to 20 years ago or more, then we can't necessarily classify that as a correction because...
No, you're fine because it was not Necromunda related. That was one of the key rules.
That was my fourth point.
Yes. I'm all happy to kick you while you're down. You know that. But even I can't allow that one. So the second one here, this one upsets me. This actually comes from a listener, Roger, and this goes all the way back to our Ratskins episode, where you actually said in regards to Brakar the Avenger, with that just beautiful heavy stubber of his, you said that his heavy stubber reminded you of the orc heavy stubber.
Yes.
Now, Roger points out that this looks nothing like the orc weapon. It, in fact, looks very imperial. It doesn't have the dimensions, the shape, or even the size of the orc weapon. Would you like to defend yourself here?
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter about that, though, because you were wrong. But go, you can say something.
So I was actually referencing an orc heavy stubber from... It was a particular piece of artwork that's almost lost to the ages, and I'm hoping that Roger has seen that artwork and maybe he can sort of match that up to my vision of what it was. But good try, Roger. But yeah, I was even just referencing the memory of an orc heavy stubber, so something deep within my own brain. So it's a bit hard to quantify that one, isn't it?
And that's fine, because once again, technically, it's not a Necromunda.
And that was my other
correction.
point. Yes,
That's
absolutely.
I just have to keep reminding you of these ones here. This next one here actually comes to us from your Van Sar episode. And this comes to a listener and Carroted Club member, Chris, who quite specifically states that Pepsi Max is better than Coke, and you made him so angry with your comments that he is literally attempting to grudge match you at Archromunda this year. So, Ed, this is the part that kills me. I'm going to bring this up. I was crying with laughter when when I actually first read this. Where is it? Let Nathan know if I play him again at Archromunda this year, there is a slab on the line. His filthy Coke versus our glorious Pepsi Max.
And do you know what? When I win that game, I'm not getting you a Coke because you probably had to stomach it. Chris, you'll probably sit there. And I know Chris directly. I think he's a champion of a bloke. You'll probably sit there and go, I can drink a Coke, or I can farm that off to somebody. I'm going to give you cherry Coke. Because I love cherry Coke. And I know that there's probably a lot of people out there who won't want to drink it. I will give him that. And he has to drink the entire slab that weekend of Archromunda. Just him, nobody else.
That's a lot of sugar.
Yep, I'm giving the man the diabetes.
I can't endorse that, mainly because of the diabetes. But yeah, the gauntlet's been thrown.
Absolutely,
Hopefully it can be picked up.
We had a cracking game at the last Archromunda. Actually, it was the final game. It was about trying to escape out of these tunnels, and there was just some mad mad shots going on. There was just some mad engagements, and it was just such a cinematic looking battlefield as well. But anyway, that was a different time, and now I have a dedicated enemy. So continue. I think that's all your corrections. We'll go into our Patreons.
No, there is another one. Once again from that Van Sar episode of yours, where you specifically state during that episode when we were discussing the horror movie that is the Nokia 3310.
Yeah.
Just a side note, a number of people messaged me asking me what the Nokia 3310 was.
You're showing your age here, Spamuel.
Yeah. Firstly, Google it. Google it. The Nokia 3310 is literally the most heinous weapon of mass destruction mankind has ever created. That thing will outlive us. At the end of 100 trillion years from now, at the inevitable heat death of the universe, there is going to be a box of unopened Nokia 3310s, all with perfect reception.
Yeah.
Just,
totally resisting the sun. Just like, no, it's still good. If you need to use this, go for it. They will have developed some sort of communicative AI by that stage as well.
Oh, 100%. They would have engineered the heat death. But you
absolutely.
described using the Nokia 3310 as a flashbang grenade.
Yes.
Listener Dan points out that you're incredibly wrong in that.
Righto.
As everyone knows, the 3310 never had the screen brightness to make it a capable flashbang grenade. Which was true. The screen brightness on those things was terrible.
It was terrible. I will...
Yeah.
Do you know what?
It would actually be a much more effective scare grenade because if that thing ricochets off a wall and hits you...
Yeah.
It's caving your chest in.
Yeah, you're having a sleep. A very long, uninterrupted sleep. Yes, I totally get that. I will say to Dan, though, back in the 90s, early 2000s, 90s, you used to be able to get these little screen enhancers for the old Game Boys. So it was like a light that you could put on there.
Yeah.
And I believe the Van Sar would have that kind of tech for a 3310. So don't undermine, don't disparage against the Van Sar here, Dan. They're a respectable house that should be vaunted and praised with the utmost respect and dignity. Oh no, I couldn't do it.
It is weird watching you try and keep a straight face.
No, they're a joke, and I take that correction on board. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, well done. Well done.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you don't know how to count.
No, Nathan, that's not it.
Oh, okay.
I've got one here. I'm really hoping you can talk your way out of. Mm-hmm. This goes back to our Orlok episode.
Oh, right.
And one of our listeners who goes by the name of Nautilus Van Drac mentioned to me, and I'm going to bring this one up here, when you were talking about the formation of House Orlok, you likened them to the Escher, and you stated that the creation of House Orlok was so different to the Escher because Orlok were almost self-made.
Yeah.
Whereas the Escher, they were handed being a house by the Blades.
Well, I want to hear the rest of this. Is that the whole correction?
Is that what you would say?
Oh, sorry, I didn't know we were in a courtroom. I've sworn
yes or no question, Mr. Manvent.
I've sworn on the 2023 Rules Compendium, so I guess I can't be purged here. Yes, they were.
The Blades didn't form House Escher. They took their own genetic data and created the House of Ulandari.
Oh.
Ulandari became the Yulanti and the Ashaki, and the Ashaki became House Escher.
All right. I feel like this is wrong because it's Escher law, and I know them quite well. I know them well. I don't think I know them well. I think that's what's happening right now. But on a broader sense,
No, but looking at that,
on a broader sense, we could sort of say, they were kind of handed. I really don't have a lot of room to maneuver on this one because you're right, because it's Ulandari and then Ashaki. It's not.
So you would agree that the Blades formed they cloned themselves into the 12.
Yeah.
Remember, there was the 5 boys and the 7 girls. Now, it did say at this point, from here, the Escher bloodline was born, but they did not become the Escher straight away. Hellmayer gave them the status of a great house, gave them the name Ulandari after one of the moons, remember?
Yeah.
And then later on, Ulandari became the Yolanti and the Athenos. The Athenos later became the Ashaki.
Yeah.
The Ashaki became the Escher.
Well, by the time they're Ashaki, they're basically Escher anyway. Actually, that's going to be a correction now as well because there's even more of a diversion.
There's the split
There's
later
split,
on. They were the Escher after that civil war.
Yeah.
So have we reached the point where you are going to admit that what you've said was incorrect? That it is entirely Necromunda based?
Sorry.
And that Nautilus Van Drac
There must be a problem with your microphone. I can't hear you
has
that
given you a true blue, honest, yibbida Nathan Manvin correction. I want a yes or no answer here, please, Mr. Manvin.
Oh, wow. It's just this lawyer Spamule has come to the fore. Wow.
I've watched a lot of lawyer television this week in preparation.
Okay. Just rerunning Jag season 1.
No, I committed a bunch of crimes, and I've been in court a lot this week.
Yeah, oh, okay. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. A lot more of a practical thing to understand about you. You've thrown me here because my theory with the corrections, right? It's not necessarily about what I said. It's about what I meant. But I don't really have any wiggle room here. So I think we just move to the next section of the episode. So well done, Nautilus Van Drac, for coming up with something that's marginally impressive. But we should move on.
I requested a yes or no answer, Mr. Manvin. Are you agreeing that Nautilus Van Drac has done what I begged the whole world to do for me? I put the call out to like 8 billion people to help me find a way to basically knock you down a peg or two.
Yep.
Do you agree this is a Manvin correction and I can close off this goddamn bounty?
The bounty, the witch hunt, the aggravation against your co-host and, I use this term loosely, friend, after this whole debacle I've had to go through with you.
Yep.
You're in agreement with all of that?
That it's a debacle?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, all right.
You're in agreement that Nautilus has hoisted you on your own petard?
Look, what I meant to say?
Doesn't matter what you meant. I meant to not run that red light. All right? I meant to not get a $300 fine that day. Doesn't matter. Still got it. You said the wrong thing. Nautilus caught you out. Scummers, this is a beautiful day for me. Because right here, with each and every one of you in attendance, to quote, well, abstractly quote, some sort of American president, ladies and gentlemen, we got it. All right. I put this up here with man landing on the moon. Like not the moon you guys know about, the real one. Yeah. I put this up there with like the invention of bottled water. I put this up there with the guy who realized, like, you know, if you lick the end of a battery and it zaps your tongue, it means it's still good for a smoke detector. Yeah. This is up there. That's a Manvin correction. Nautilus Van Drac, you have corrected him. And as stated in the original episode, I put this bounty out on him. There is a gang box coming your way, my dude. I'll be in touch with you in regards to what you want. I will ensure that it is packaged with a fresh vial of Manvin tears. Just so you can put them in like an incense burner and really just enjoy them later on. Oh God! After that, I need a beer and a cigarette. Sorry, low stick.
Low stick. Yeah.
But,
I have one thing to say.
No, this is not your episode, sir.
Okay.
As we often say, Lokers are jokers. Stay away from low sticks. They make you look cool, but everyone else thinks you are a tool. Nathan, what was it you were going to say?
I have one thing to say to Mr. Van Drac, Mr. Nautilus. Boo!
Oh, man. I'm really, really annoyed because he actually sent me that like ages ago. And I finally was like, yep, sweet, sick, I can put it in there and get you. And when you cut off the spam your corrections last time, I was like, no, don't screw me on this. Don't screw me on this. I was so angry at you. Oh.
Good. Do you know what? Then we all win. I win because you got angry. And Nautilus, I guess you win, but I'm not really acknowledging you anymore. Do not contact the show ever again.
He speaks to me a lot on Discord. Yeah, that's the end of the episode. Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to season 2, folks.
Welcome to season 2. What's the next bounty? No, we're not doing another one. Patreons. Why don't you read... Oh, yeah, I've got something to say about this. Read out our new Patreon.
Yeah, right. Okay, so to all of our patrons out there, always like to pass on a little message. Thank you very much for your support, your dedication, and your interaction with us via the Patreon. If you do have some stuff you want to talk to us about there, you can message directly on Patreon, so please feel free to do that. I actually try to get on and respond to everybody there. It's my forays into social media-ing. I think that's a word. But
social media-ing? Yep, that's well known as a word.
Yeah, I heard like kids saying it, and I was like, I'm cool like them. I can use that word.
Yeah. So I'm down with the flippity hops.
Yeah, they said that too, and then they asked me to leave. I was like, yeah, nah, cool guys. Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. Right, so our newest patrons, we have Kaylin.
I'm going to say Kaylin.
Kaylin, it's a good name. Jeremy, Craig. Craig, you always get a mention on our show. One of our recording devices is named Craig, actually. So you're always here with us. Joe, Rob, Sean, and John. Now, I'm assuming John is the one you want to talk about here.
John is the one I want to talk about. John, we chatted a little bit on Instagram and that sort of thing there. And John joined up on our Patreon and then messaged me just to say, I literally only joined to make sure you get a butt tattoo.
Well,
I love the fact that we're bringing people together. I hate the fact that people seem to be coming together to bully me specifically.
do you know what? I'm struggling to see a problem with that. I'm on board with it. I sort of unite together, guys. That's our new bounty. You,
Well,
just to bully you.
Okay. Yeah, bully me. That's fine. What was it? Did we say 100?
100
And we
for
were gonna
your.
get
Yeah.
for my
No,
butt
no, no, no,
tattoo?
no, no, no. We're you.
100 for me getting the logo tattooed on my butt.
Yep.
The 150, and it was going to be your first tattoo.
Yes. Yes. Best tattoo
And
ever.
200, and I was going to get Pity, the Cupid caryatid, tattooed to my body.
Yes.
Now
I think that should be a face tattoo, but that's just me.
No, funnily enough, I got a message from Pani, the person who came up with Pity the Cupid caryatid.
Yeah.
And she'd message me and she'd be like, yeah, I've already started drawing Pity tattoos for you. Like, oh, good.
Oh, good.
I am so glad that everyone is getting involved in the spam you're bullying.
Hopefully, it's your Christmas present to the community.
If we get the 200, you know what? If we hit 150 before Christmas, 150 paid Patreons,
Yeah.
I would do that. I would take it down to 150 and not 200.
Listen to you go, you elite A-level negotiator. You're like,
Yeah.
I'll do it for less. I'll do it for less, folks.
Yeah, because I think Christmas is like
Yeah.
4 months away, give or take.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
man.
what I would like to see you do, as just to show your dedication to the show, to the community, is to get it as you don't have to get it as a face tattoo, but as a neck tattoo. That'd be cool. Because, like, people who have those neck tattoos, it's really awesome. And I think you should do it.
So, I would never be allowed to see my mother again. My mother is very accepting of tattoos. Given sort of our background, she's cool with it all. If I came home with a neck tattoo of anything, she would, how do I put this? Kill me with my own face.
Oh, right. Right, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So we are currently at 43 paid Patreons there.
So we've got
And-
quite a mountain to climb, is what
Yeah,
you're saying.
we got a mountain to climb
Before you get your neck
I-
tattoo. Yeah.
before I get my neck tattoo. But I reckon we can do it. So I'm looking forward to it. And listeners, if you enjoy the show and you are interested in supporting the podcast and bullying me into tattooing Necromunda-themed ideas onto my body, please shoot over to patreon.com/the Underhive Lorekeepers podcast. We are obviously 100% funded by the goodwill of our audience, although we do this for the love of our hobby. Each month we have a Patreon exclusive episode, as well as competitions, polls on episodes, and other bonus content. If you are looking for another way to support us, get onto our social media, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. A like and subscribe helps us grow and get our particular brand of lore out into the world. All of our links will be in the show notes, and please don't forget to give us a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform.
I will say also with our Patreon guys, we are doing our hobby diary at the moment in our lead up to Arcramunda. So I think we're having a lot of fun doing that, you and I.
Yes, very much
It's
so.
pretty open range discussion about things and just having a good old chinwag about what it is to do the hobby and a particular pathway that we're setting for our Arcramunda gangs. I'm enjoying doing those episodes quite a fair bit. So if you do want to have a listen to them, jump onto our Patreon and get involved.
Yeah, and the hobby diaries are available to everyone, whether you are a paid subscriber or not, because they are very conversational, just us talking about hobby. And yeah, each month we do a sort of lore-centric episode.
Yeah.
And, yeah, we're effectively doing an episode every week. 2 sort of Patreon episodes and then 2 sort of mainstream podcast episodes.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's, I've got to say, it's quite enjoyable actually doing it like that. But a lot of work, but we love it and we love the community. And I'm assuming everybody loves me back except for Nautilus Van Drack. He can get...
Well, speaking of love within the community, Nathan, what are we talking about this episode?
I guess what we want to sort of explore in this episode, it is a little divergent from, I guess, the norm, would you say? Yeah?
Well, I would definitely say so.
Yeah, so I guess what we're trying to do here is have a look at the Genestealer Cults.
I was 100% prepared for us to discuss the existing geopolitical situation inside the European Union. Was that not the way we were taking this podcast?
No, that's my mistake, yes. I'm very, very pro Iceland.
Weird, because I was going to blame it all on the Greeks.
You sound very European.
No, we are discussing the Genestealer Cults, the Genestealer Cults.
Yeah, the Genestealer Cult, absolutely. But
Gang idea,
yeah. All of them named Stavros,
just a whole group of guys named Stavros and Nick.
So do you know how the Genestealers have the tendrils at the front? Right, they all have like curly tendrils coming down the back of their hair, like the classic Grecian perm. But
cause curls get the girls.
You know what? I used to play soccer at a Greek club, and that was the consensus. That was like a little motto that they had above the club room door. And you'd have to tap it as you walked out. But
apparently the Greeks are my new enemy. All right.
Yeah, but that's not great if you're in Melbourne, because I think it's the second largest Greek community in the world outside
the world.
Yeah, outside of obviously Greece.
Yeah.
Right. No, do not derail so soon.
What are we talking? Yes. Sorry. Yeah. Let's rewind. Re-rail the derail. Yeah. Nathan, what exactly are we discussing this episode?
We are talking about the Genestealer Cults in a broader sense. So, something that is not necessarily a normal fixture for us, in the sense that we're going to talk about the Genestealer Cults in, I guess, the global sense. No, it'd be the universal sense.
Galactic sense.
Galactic sense, that's the word. So the discussion, and the reason why we want to do this, and the discussion that we're going to have, is about getting a bit of founding knowledge and understanding about who they are, why they exist, how they exist, what their operations look like. And we want to do this because we believe it is the perfect segue into talking about the Malstrain. Because to understand the Malstrain, we need to understand the Genestealer Cults. And we need to understand why the Genestealer Cults were that impactful, or not that they are so impactful upon the Imperium, that the Inquisition and our favourite biologist, Hermacet. I've forgotten his name already.
Biologist Hermiatus.
Hermiatus, that's it. Hermiatus decided that they should set up basically an experimentation lab on Necromunda, like one of the most populous planets in the Imperium, also within the solar segmentum, and let's stuff around with Genestealers here.
A dangerous place to screw around.
Exactly.
Honestly,
yeah.
A dangerous
100%.
place to screw around. But
yeah,
no, what Nate's saying is absolutely right, and we sort of talked about it because we originally weren't going to be going into Genestealer Cult. Obviously, we weren't expecting Secundus to come out till September 19th. I believe it was 1 p.m. that you said.
Yeah.
And we knew that once the sort of the generic gang options, and it's so hard to call them generic given the 100 or so hours we've put into talking about them so far. But we sort of look at this episode as the beginning of sort of like a brief 10,000 year history, but for the Genestealers and the Genestealer cults.
Yeah.
And we the two of us discussed it a lot, and we sort of wanted to break it down into three parts. The first being the Genestealer cults, like Nathan said, on a galactic scale. That I actually prefer global scale because it makes it seem more logical. But we're going to do a galactic scale first, the
Yeah.
global scale second. So actually looking at Genestealer cults and the male strains on Necromunda for the second episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the third episode, we were actually looking at finally being able to do Hive Life Secundus. Actually looking at, honestly, my favourite Hive.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so not to cut you off in what you're saying, but basically that is, I guess, a window into the episodes we're going to be doing for, I don't know, the next 3, maybe potentially 4. We'll see. We'll see how it evolves. We're not kind of trying to set a finite limit on this, and it'll also, I guess, depend on us playing Secundus as well. We might find that, we might want to explore a few other things as we delve into that campaign itself.
I really don't want to play Secundus against you because I'm going to feel weird killing Vansar.
No, I think it'll be great. I'm pretty happy with that result. I might just play it. What?
I'm willing to kill Vansar if it means humbling you. You're absolutely right.
Humbling me. Oh, blow it out your nose. I guess the other thing as well that's been related to this, we have had a few of our listeners reach out to us and ask us, are we going to dabble in 40k? And in our first 12 months of doing this podcast, I don't think there was any sort of desire to do it. But in our second season, we'll see. We'll see what the universe holds.
That's exactly it, because we're obviously now moving into some, like we said earlier, some of the more the weird stuff. We're going to be talking about Genestealer cults, and they are in the wider 40k universe. We're going to talk about chaos cults. We're going to talk about, Dustwall PDF. We're going to talk about rogue traders and these noble houses and all of these things. And much like our sort of Open the Armories episodes, we do touch on to a little bit more 40k centric material in that mindset.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're just sort of expanding out into things that are all in the end still Necromunda related.
Yeah, I think so. We are not abandoning Necromunda at all, though with the rise of the Aranthians, it sort of seems like the safest option. But we're holding true. We're going to stick it out on this planet. We're going to see exactly what happens to Lady Hera. We're going to see exactly what the Greater Imperium thinks of the rise of the Aranthians and how that affects the rest of the planet. We're going to be here.
I will stick around until we
you.
do an Imperial Fists episode. Boo.
Boo. Mate, that could be in 3 weeks' time. You don't know.
All right, so Genestealer Cults.
I guess the place to start would be Genestealers.
Yeah. I think we probably should start talking about Genestealers now. Genestealers are a weird one because although they are definitely a group, a bioform that make up a small portion of the Tyranid race, they are still this weird, almost separate entity.
Yeah.
Now, the Genestealers, for anyone who doesn't know, they are roughly sort of man-sized and man-shaped. They're basically a bug specifically designed for infiltration of the worlds of intelligent species. Now,
And also Space Hulks. That's like...
Well-
no, I think that's a key thing as well. So it's not just the
Yeah.
planets, like getting their filthy little claws into Space Hulks and just being able to transport themselves around in that regard.
That's the thing. I wouldn't class them as using space hulks as anything other than transport. Like they infest space hulks just to get themselves across the cosmos, because Genestealers, they're parasitic. They're stowaways. They are the type of thing that gets smuggled onto a transport ship and will ride that bad boy to wherever it's going. And once they actually get there, that's when they sort of start doing their thing. Now, before we actually get into sort of like Genestealer Cults and sort of that thing, when did we find them? When did we interact with them the first time?
Now, this is, for those who know, understand there's a bit of contention about the name of the planet. And for those who don't know, it's pronounced girl.
No. The word is Ymgarl. Now,
girl, yeah.
The Ngal, it's Gal, not girl. This is not Delacroix 2.0. All right, it is
100. It is 100% girl. That's when I believe, was it No, it wasn't. Cassius found the first cults. It says the Umgarlian, which is actually pronounced Umgarlian species. So that's what they're referred to. And so I know how they pronounce things in High Gothic, and I can tell you that is how it's pronounced. Do not sully yourself by trying to pronounce it as Umgarl.
Okay. So the Umgarl Genestealers were first actually not believed to be part of the broader Tyranid species, but they were actually believed to be a Xenos native to the moons of the world of Umgarl, and were first encountered by Imperial trade crews on merchant ships at around 500 of M41. So people have come to the moon of Umgarl. You notice why I completely ignored your girl? Although, girl, I actually, I can't believe I'm doing this. So the girl Genestealers were believed to be something completely unique until Hive Fleet Behemoth actually invaded during 745 of M41, and Imperial people started to see the Genestealers for what they truly were: shock assault troops, whose specialization was tearing open armor and getting to the warm gooiness inside.
I think that's the exact combat doctrine that was used: tearing open armor and getting to the gooey goodness inside. I guess the other thing as well is that they are designed to get into small spaces, and they are designed to sneak away. So this idea of them as shock troops is 100%. They are ultra deadly, get in there, cause havoc, but they're also the flip side of that is that they are designed to be sneaky, no good sneakies that can wiggle their way into anything. They can also shut themselves down for a long period of time as well. Yeah. And that's how they get onto the Space Hulks.
Well, that's exactly it.
That's how they survive so long on the Space Hulks. So
there's no air. There's no nothing.
Yeah, and they can... It even says here, there are tales of Genestealers reaching worlds while frozen within captured ice comets, compacted into the cavities in a void ship's superstructures, lurking in cargo containers or refrigerated grok carcasses. So the cold of the void doesn't affect them. But just from a historical point of view as well, when we're talking about first seeing Genestealers, I first saw my first set of Genestealers from Space Crusade.
Space Crusade, yes.
Space Crusade, way back in the day. And I was like, what are these? Actually, I say Space Crusade. I think you are right. My old man brain is kicking in there. It was Space Hulk. the original Space Hulk.
Was
Yes.
it?
Yeah.
Who was in Space Crusade?
I know there was little gobbo type creatures. There was orcs. There was Space Marines. There was blue, yellow, and red Space Marines.
I
And
think you're right.
there was a Dreadnought. I remember the Dreadnought. That was terrifying, that thing. It'd rock up and it'd have all these weapons on it and just, like, unleash. And then there was... Oh, do you know what was in it, actually? It's come back to me now. Androids. Which some people think are like the precursor for the Necrons. But there was androids in there. Yeah, that's right. I remember them. I reckon if I went back to my parents' garage, I'd probably still be able to find some of the bits and bobs for the game. But so from a historical point of view, I the Genestealers have been around a very long time, both in a model format, but then I guess consequently as they are across the entire Imperium, having existed for so long. But as you said, they were first seen as only being of the planet Mgel.
And that's the thing that I love. And we'll probably discuss this a lot more later on when we're talking about the mouse strains and that sort of thing there. But we learn that the Mgel Genestealers, they're a deviation from the true Tyranid form. They have the cool tentacle Zoidberg faces, and they actually crossbred themselves with like an eel species, and they can effectively turn themselves invisible. Like they have this weird, what's the word I'm looking for? Like stealth ability. They can force their bodies into even like more extreme versions of like chameleonic capability.
Oh, right. I know they can like wind themselves through pipes and tunnels and all the rest of it.
Yeah,
and that's like
they're
one
like
of
an
their...
eel.
Yeah, right. Oh,
Yeah. But
so
one of the
like...
weird things is it uses so much more of their internal biomass that they have to feed. And they don't feed like normal Tyranids by just like eating everything. They suck the blood. Like they drain the physical like life from their prey through the blood. Like,
wow. So they steal the life energy.
Yeah.
So
like,
they're a combination of eel, Tyranid, cat, because they can wriggle into small areas, and toddler, because they drain life energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. We can literally put a bow on that and move away from Genestealers altogether.
Totally.
But yeah, so the Genestealers, one thing Nathan sort of started leading onto before is they work away from the regular Tyranid hive fleets, which is incredibly strange given that the Tyranids need to be around each other to allow that hive mind communication. So for those of you who don't know a lot about the Tyranids, they are very basic in the fact that the bigger you are, the more control you have over things that are smaller than you. So the mental directions are handed to the sort of the chaff within the army, the Gaunts, Rippers, all that sort of stuff.
Hormigons, that kind of gear.
The Hormigons, by the larger creatures. And if those... It was basically sort of an old tactic in earlier versions of 40k, kill the big bugs, and eventually the Tyranid army would just crumple. And that's literally a thing written into a lot of the lore about Tyranids.
Well, that was when I played second ed. I remember facing Tyranids only a handful of times. And when you killed the big bugs, the things around them would go into, like, you had to make this other table roll where they would go into, like, instinctive mode. And sometimes that mode would be that they would just, like, mill about, just, like, kicking the dirt, looking at trees and, playing with bugs and stuff like that. And literally the unit would do nothing. And it was like very obviously debilitating for somebody who's using the army. But then I played Astra Militarum back then before reserves, so it was
exactly.
it was debilitating anyway. So, but yeah, anyway, continue on. Yeah, you knock out the big bugs.
Yeah, and the army's useless. Or if they're too far away from something bigger than them, they don't have the ability to do anything but run on their base instincts.
Yeah.
Genestealers do not have that problem. They don't have to rely on the hive mind. They create something of their own called the brood mind. Genestealers are... They are individuals to a certain degree, which is incredibly scary when you take into account what they're actually doing. And that is something we will discuss much later on in this episode as to what the Genestealer Cults are actually trying to do. So, Genestealer Cults, Nathan, when did we first discover Genestealer Cults?
I believe, and we've done a little bit of reading on this, but it was Chaplain Cassius.
Yes.
Ultramarines Captain.
Kind of. It was an Inquisitor, first off.
Oh. I thought it actually says that their existence within the Emperor's realm was not detected until alarm bells were sounded by Chaplain Cassius and his Death Watch kill team on the mining world of Gosar Quintus.
That's technically correct.
Oh, okay.
The first confirmed Imperial engagement with the Genestealer cult occurred upon the mining colony of Gosar Quintus in 680 of M41. So about 180 years after Imperial merchants come into contact with the Mgurl Genestealers, and about 70 years before Behemoth attacked. And it was actually an Inquisitor by the name of Chagrin who led a team of Tempestus Scions to Gosar Quintus, and basically goes into what is described as the Great Pit. And the deeper he ventured with this sort of group of Scions, he discovered more and more deviance, and basically saying it's sending communiques back to the Imperium going, this is not good, this is terrible, this is bad, etc., etc., until the last one that gets sent, where he's basically just going, no, it's cool, this place is great, don't worry about them, I'm going to hang out here for a while. I met a guy named Timmy, he seems pretty cool.
Timmy the Termagant. Yeah.
Timmy the Termagant, don't worry about it. We are pretty good here. And basically a year later, everyone's just like, that's kind of dumb. Chagrin hates people named Timmy. Did you guys... Did anyone pick up on this?
That's one of his tenets of joining his inquisitorial retinue. Do you sound like a Timmy? Do you have the vibe of a Timmy? If you are actually named Timmy, you're in a great deal of trouble. You are not making this retinue, and I'm probably killing you.
Exactly. That sort of thing is what was happening there. And they've then sent a kill team of Death Watch Space Marines. And then what happens there is that was led by Chaplain Orton Cassius, and he basically walked in, said, WTF, mate.
Yes.
And
your mayor there with 4 arms.
Yeah.
He's a naughty no-good of the highest order, and I know that because I've been punching Tyranids for probably about 70% of my lifetime. So
he hadn't punched a single Tyranid before this point.
Oh, true, yeah. No.
The first Tyranids he punched weren't even real Tyranids. They were cultists.
Yeah, righto. Yeah, I stand corrected there. So he's... well,
correction!
Obviously that
Oh! Damn it.
Yeah.
Stupid Nautilus. Love you, buddy.
I don't. But basically, I think this gives him the bug for excuse the pun there, but it gives him the bug to go kill more Tyranids. He's just like, I like this. I like this, killing these little sharp teeth, pointy clawed, angry bug people. I'm going to start kicking their faces in, and I guess by the time he basically becomes a tyrannic war veteran. I think Cassius.
He becomes a tyrannic war tyrant. His whole existence is like, we should kill more Tyranids. He wakes up in the morning. He praises the Emperor for hopefully today he gets to kill some Tyranids.
Yeah.
Then he I'm assuming goes into his personal gym, and there's like a punching bag, and it's just got a bunch of Tyranid parts glued to it, and he just wails on that while praying.
Yeah.
But this isn't our episode on Chaplain Orton Cassius and his weird hatred of bugs, and the fact that he has watched the movie Starship Troopers literally 1,000,000 times. We are forever.
Yes, Cassius, we do. Stop saying it. But we want to serve the Emperor as long as we can, please.
We get it. The only good bug's a dead bug. God.
Yeah.
Jesus God, Emperor.
Look, I mean, I think I want to explore a little bit more, just briefly, about what the Genestealer cults are, because in one of the codexes, it does have a great indication of how they start. So it says the first hints of a Genestealer cult infestation may come from inexplicable disappearances, thefts of equipment or material, and the sinister graffiti praising the Star Children, which I think is just brilliant, calling the Tyranids the Star Children. But then, consequently, once the cult is thoroughly locked in, you begin to see improvements. So tide quotas may improve markedly due to the efficiency of uncomplaining workers. Underhive crime may drop off sharply as the cult seeks to claim territory and prevent detection before they are ready for their uprising. So the initial points are dealing with some absolute downright tomfoolery from the cult in thefts and all this other kind of stuff that you just go, oh, if the right mind was looking at this, they would understand that we could be in trouble here. But by the time you get to the end of the process, you're like, wow, everything's working really, really well. The Imperium just needs to find a happy medium with the Genestealer cults and just say, look, if you can maintain this efficiency, we will actually bring the Tyranids. Yeah, we'll bring the Tyranids to you. We'll bring them to you. We'll give you a planet. But then you just constantly fight that Tyranid hive fleet. You never allow it to reach the planet, but the weapons and production from your planet that you're protecting from the Tyranids go to fuel that war that you're having against that hive fleet. So it's kind of like a little bit of a,
like a catch-22.
It's a catch-22. We need your efficiency to help us defeat the Tyranids that we're summoning to you, so that you feel like your uprising is right on the brink. So,
well, why don't we talk about how a cult itself gets established? So, I'll give you a scenario.
Yes.
We have a merchant vessel led by the mercantilely minded Manvent. And
beautiful.
You just happen to be transferring a Genestealer in one of your containers of frozen grox. Now, you drop this container off to world... I can't think of a planet name that isn't Timmy.
I think it's, and then just, Timatice.
Timatice. So you've dropped that bad boy down to Timatice. How does the infection start?
You savour a little bit of the grox and that's it. You're done. You're cooked. You finish. No, it obviously starts with the Genestealers working their way into the Underhives. So that Genestealer eventually, it's almost like that Genestealer gets out of that frozen grox and then works its way down Hive. That's its instinctive behaviour, is to get to grips with the local populace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Genestealer, typically in classic little infiltration style, will isolate a single individual. And one thing we haven't sort of mentioned about Genestealers so far is they have effectively a hypnotic gaze where they will isolate a person, lock eyes, and that person is just stopped. They cannot do a thing to fight the mental domination that this Genestealer now has over them. Obviously, this is in 99.999% of cases. You're going to have individuals who are mentally strong enough to fight this off, at which point, remember we talked about the Genestealer ripping open the armor and getting to the gooey bits inside?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what occurs, and then they go find someone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the Genestealer then basically they give them a naughty no good kiss.
Yes, I was going to say. We've mentioned it before, the ovipositor, which
Yeah.
is just like a come here, and you hear it from the victim. They're like, girl. And then the
girl.
Genestealer goes, that's right, that's me. Mwah. Have one of those, lay that on your choppers. But I guess the nefarious and evil part of it, because again, it's something I've mentioned in other episodes, that is their instinctive behaviour, that's their belief system, whatever the case, whatever you want to call it. And that's something that you can't really hate them for. You can't really
You can hate them.
Oh, you can hate them, but it's not something. It's not a conscious thing to do this. It's not a conscious thing to do this. This is just who they are and what they do. The nasty bit comes from the victim, where they begin to view their Genestealer as, and it's specifically states here, a messianic savior. So like some sort of messiah for them, bringing them up from the lowliest being that they are on this Underhive, and then going off and kidnapping others, who then they bring to be implanted. And as we said before, it's the Genestealer kiss. It's the you're in trouble.
Yeah, you get oviposited, and then all of a sudden you're experiencing a bad day.
Yeah.
But when those individuals are actually infected by this kiss, it puts... The way I want to describe it is it puts a genetic parasite into that body where it actively alters the target's DNA because the kiss has implanted a small amount of the Genestealer inside this first individual. Now, these individuals are known as contagi. Now, the host victims, or contagi, return to their own societies and begin to have an urgent need to find a mate and begin a family. Now, this mate also becomes infected with Genestealer DNA through sexual intercourse with the infected host. Now, contagi, many of whom become brood brothers, still physically resemble other members of their species, though they may have a slight blue or mauve pallor to their skin and can be psychically controlled by the Genestealer patriarch through the brood mind to become mindless slaves, making them perfect infiltrators. Now, that's something we haven't mentioned. The moment that first Genestealer on the planet infects another individual, and we are talking primarily about humans. Humans,
Yeah.
we are the greatest plague. We are a plague of which Nurgle couldn't comprehend on our galaxy. But
I will say that.
We'll talk about Xenos later.
Yeah, no, but with the humans as well, I think it's a key thing to understand that the Genestealers, the people they're picking, they're not going for the nobles. They're not going for the ones sitting way up high on the upper reaches of the hierarchy within a hive city or a planet. They're getting what I would deem as like susceptible beings, people who are sick of the oppression of the imperial life, who want something different, and so they're vulnerable anyway. These people, So once they're given this opportunity to become something greater and bigger than themselves and just break away from the Imperium, they take it on full ball. I think even if there is any resistance in them, it is little to none, because they don't want to be in the current state that they're in anyway.
Well, I think it's also the fact that it's easier to find people on the lower rungs of society. It's easier to isolate them. It's easier to sort of brush aside that some of them might be acting strange. If a noble all of a sudden is turning blue, they're going to have doctors and friends and that sort of thing. That's like, hey, yo, Bill, when did you start turning turquoise, Chief?
Yeah.
No reason. Why don't you come into this back room at my house?
Yeah, exactly. Come meet my four-armed friend, and he will explain to you exactly the benefits of bluing yourself.
But this is also showing the true insidious nature of the Genestealers, where, so, Nath, you've gotten the kiss from now Papa Patriarch, and yes, right. That's what we were saying. The first Genestealer to start the infection will effectively find themselves somewhere comfortable, and they get big. They immediately start growing and becoming this almost beacon for their newly formed brood mind. And individuals can be brought to them, absolutely. But once they get their cult or their sort of new family to a certain size, they're not out there anymore. They're not running around doing the infecting. They have these brood brothers, for example. And brood brothers, I think, are great because they may be the ones who have been infected firstly, the contagi. They may be the partners of the contagi. Sexual encounters in any form of society, where all of a sudden these people are mentally being programmed to no longer believe what they believed previously, but they are being turned towards the Genestealer cult. And where it talks about the Brood Brothers, where Brood Brothers is actually the name given by a Genestealer cult's members to normal humans who have been infected with the Xenos genetic material of a Genestealer patriarch through its ovipositor. So, Brood Brothers, quite specifically, are this first sort of generation of new infected. They are just everyday people who have been this disease has spread to. Would you call it a disease?
Perfect.
Infection?
No, that's exactly. It's a disease. It's an infection. It's not something that they're actively looking for. It's something that influences them and affects them. But yeah, you're right. The Brood Brothers themselves are the base element of the I guess this infection, but they're also the face of the Genestealer cult to a certain point. Yes. Do you know what I mean? So everything else, and we'll talk about it soon, about like the first generation, second generation, all that. They're not going out there running the stalls. They're not going out there trying to sign up to the PDF or anything like that. They wouldn't get past the first commissar. They would be executed there and there. They wouldn't get out of their hole, let alone because of the way that they look. So the Brood Brothers are an integral part and a vital part of what is going to eventually become a full-blown uprising, because they are the core element that will spread across all elements of the hives. They are the servant to the noble house. They are the servant to a noble master, who they are able to then, perhaps get him or her infected in some way, shape or form.
But going on what you said there, they are the PDF. They are the guard regiment. They are the commissar. Like, we've not really sort of branched out of anything yet, but these are just everyday people. This is a guy walking down an alley on his way to work one night and gets kissed. This is, some PDF sergeant after shift who's out at a bar and a girl's giving him a wink from across, the other side of the bar. And he goes, hey, it's my lucky night. No, buddy, your DNA just got changed.
Yeah, exactly. So let me ask you something. Do you think they would remember the kiss?
No, they do not. They
Yeah,
specifically do not.
yeah,
And some in sort of universe knowledge from this, the Caiaphas Cain novels, he specifically states that when people get the Genestealer kiss, there are two guardsmen who get it, and they come out of this situation, and they're very groggy, they're very dizzy, and Caiaphas Cain kills them. Everyone goes, "Well, what are you doing?" And he goes, "They've been kissed by a Genestealer. They've specifically blocked out this same period of time each, because
yeah,
that's when the Genestealer would have kissed them and
yeah,
passed on the genetic material. It actively blocks the parts of the brain to remember that this horrific thing has happened to them.
yeah,
And the Genestealers the Genestealer cult blocking out parts of the brain until the last possible moment is an ongoing theme. Something we'll touch on later on as to
yeah,
what
yeah.
happens when the Nids show up. Um, but yeah,
So
no, that
that there is the danger of the situation, because then you can take anybody you want and you can turn them into brood brothers. You know, you just
yes,
keep feeding them down the line, keep feeding them down the line, and it is all about developing the trust and the faith in the individual. And again, we'll go back to my servant idea, and saying to the noble master, "Oh, look, I can procure for you these items, but we need your seal, and it's on your ring, and you never take off your ring. So I need you just to come with me, just to stamp this data slate." He goes down into a part of his great villa that he would not normally go to, and comes back feeling a bit groggy,
yes,
a bit woozy,
yes,
and just going, I didn't like. And then they'll say, "Did you ever go to the Underhive?" Never been to the Underhive, like, because that part of the memory wouldn't be knocked out. You know what I mean? He'd remember going down deeper into a hive. He'd remember going out into the boonies of some agri world to, to follow something that his servant has suggested. But walking around his villa, like, oh yeah, I might have gone down that part, but why would that matter? But that's how you sneak the Genestealer in, and you go, let's play spin the bottle, and there's two people
but
in
by
the room.
this point here, that noble's mind's being altered, so he now sees that Genestealer as this messiah,
Yeah,
as
yep.
the prophet of the star gods, or
Star
this
Children.
four-armed emperor, whatever
Yeah.
they want to call them. But yeah, no, I agree. Then using that gets to their noble friends, builds up, etc. Well, okay, so we've got brood brothers, and we know they're going out there, and they want to make babies. Nathan, what? Why don't you jump into Generation One there?
Yeah, I was going to say Generation One is the fun stuff. This is the stuff, the stuff of nightmares things. These are the. Oh, you give me this because of the pronunciation of the word.
Yes, I
I
did.
like it.
Um,
Malignaki.
Malignaki?
Malignaki? Malignaki? It sounds like a pasta I ate a couple of days ago. I'll just have the Malignaki, please, with extra ovipositor. Anyway,
Malignacci.
I have
Oh,
no.
I look at that as like almost the word malignant. Malignancy.
Oh, malignus.
Malignancy. Malignancy.
Malignasi. Yeah, right. Yeah,
Alright, done.
Malignasi. The first of the cult's vile children, a first generation of hybrid or Malignasi, is as much a monster as it looks. More reminiscent of a Genestealer than a human, these foul creatures feature between 5 or 6 limbs, each one ending in sharp talons. These mutants often serve as acolyte hybrids. Their bulbous heads have the facial features of their Xenos gene father, with their skin taking on a purple hue. These creatures are little more than beasts, their instincts directing their every move. So, this goes back to what we're talking about, the instinct of the creature. And these are almost like your bullies. You're protecting now the Genestealer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it makes sense. It makes sense that these creatures here would be what would be then given over to the I guess the brood, to say, these are your enforcers, these are your killers, these are, when you want to flick the switch, these will be your shock troops.
Yeah, but these are the ones that I think typically are those workers you were talking about before. So
Yeah.
where all of a sudden this cult's taken root, and you're finding that they're keeping themselves hidden, but typically you're finding them in a lot of backwater planets, or you're finding them in places where imperial authorities aren't really looking, and the current sort of default mindset as to what a Genestealer cult is mining colonies. So they're the ones in the mines where people
Yeah.
aren't seeing them. They don't
Yeah.
care that the air is thin and it's too hot and
Yeah.
there's not enough food or water, because their mind tells them, chop chop, dig dig.
Yeah,
Like,
follow your base instinct. See, I think of them within the hive because, unfortunately, my brain goes back to the Genestealer cults from way back in the day, in the 90s, when they were driving around in limousines and were some sort of...
that was the Magos and that
Yeah,
later on.
yeah. So that's... I always look at them in the hive, and I guess that, if the Brood Brothers have now taken over a forge or something along those lines, that's where your Generation 1 creatures or Malinaki are going to be. They'll be in those areas, doing those jobs, pulling that lever, lifting that steel. What we'd normally need some sort of servo harness to lift with, we can just lift with one of our first generations,
Ooh.
So they're
Is it too early for a gang idea?
no, it's never too early for a gang idea.
I don't know. We're not really talking about Necromunda. I shouldn't be doing gang
No,
ideas.
give me a gang idea.
Okay. A Genestealer cult on an agri world.
Damn it! Damn you!
Is that where you were going?
I was going to go with the agri world. I was waiting though because I'm a gentleman. But go ahead.
Picture a Genestealer cult on an agri world where they sort of cut out the influence of the Adeptus Mechanicus with the harvesting machines and that by effectively just taking these first generation hybrids and giving them all like scythes, and they're cutting down the wheat manually, but it's all being done at night. So during the day, you've got the Brood Brother types. This would be a great sort of campaign setting.
Yeah.
And at night, you do a day cycle and a night cycle. When the night cycle comes in, your enemies are all that second generation hybrids where they're these horrific mutants, and they've got these huge cutting implements, and that would be
But
cool.
they're very basic. But so to explore with that just a little bit further, so you would almost have like in the campaign, you'd have a night cycle, day cycle, and that would determine who you're fighting. But also for the creation of the gang, you would have like almost like a full moon effect. In the night cycle, you would have the aberrants or whatever they're going to be, the Generation 1s, all equipped with close combat weapons. But in the day, you would have the farmers working around with like their farming weaponry, for use of a better term. So, the best heavy weapon you're going for is a heavy stubber, because that's the best for dealing with giant rats. Just being able to unload into a swarm of them. The gang itself would be really cool in the sense that you build them with very rustic looking type of aesthetic to them. So, I think a lot of the whole aesthetic of the Genestealer cults is the mining uniform. The ribbed and padded shin and knee guards, arm guards, and so forth. You don't need that on an agri world. So they'd be a lot more loosely armed, or loosely armoured, I guess. So almost looking just like regular civilians, just armed regular civilians. So maybe there's a flak jacket concealed under a shirt, or you wouldn't even, or maybe there's some mesh armor.
Well, not even that. I'm picturing like linen pants and shirts and stuff.
Yeah.
Something to sort of cover their modesty, for lack of a better term. But nothing really, because if they're just on this agri world at night, all the farmers are going to be part of that Brood Brother sort of level of it. They're all going to be part of the cult. So they would just be making like pants and shirts for their for their less human cousins.
Yeah, yeah. I always like the idea of the agri world as well because when you think agri world, you instantly think that it won't have a hive. Do you know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
hive that what you see on Necromunda. So where does this brood lord live? Where does the
In a
heart
barn.
of the in a barn? That's
In a
that's
barn.
what, yeah. I was gonna say in like a cave deep in the woods or something along
Or
those lines.
a tunnel network under all the farms
Yeah.
that starts in one of the barns. Boom.
There you go, perfect. And there's like areas that are closed off where they're just like we give that over to the ambles because
Yeah.
they're the tunnel kings, so we're not going to bother.
Genestealer Cult infected ambles. That is horrifying.
Oh, that is truly terrifying, isn't it? Jeez Louise. And like nobody would bat an eye. They would just be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. They do look like Genestealer cults. But yeah, so I guess we'll go back to the Maligni as well. They are the I guess or we do have some information, but like they get all the biomechanical weapon biomorphs as well. So not all, but they do get some of those weapon morphs. So I think it's like the rending claws or the scything talons,
Yeah,
all that
yeah.
kind of gizzo that they can have bolted onto them. But it begins to show that, this is, I guess, showing that this is a true tyrannid organism in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is part of the swarm.
Yeah, that's your like a hybrid metamorph. So, although the metamorphs and acolytes are sort of from that first generation, they're definitely more gene stealer / tyrannid than human in any way, shape, or form. And when the metamorphs are a weird one because they're an early generation, but they don't really exist until much later in the infection, where when the actual hive fleet comes close, sort of a signal goes out from the hive fleet, and the acolyte hybrids of the first and second generation start changing into these metamorphs where, just like you said, they almost explode with a tyrannid influence, where
Yeah,
they
yeah.
have the claws and the talons and the whips growing out of their shoulders and that sort of thing. They become almost too tyrannid, if you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
yeah, yeah. I was going to say by that stage of the dance, the night is over. Like
Oh,
it's
mate.
it's like, mate, you're not even if you're having these things working at night, they're not really focused on the task anymore. They're like, we need to start killing and creating, you know, uh, biomass pools or whatever, or creating piles of biomass for the rippers to come and break down and bring back to the biomass
For our
pools.
star god saviors.
Our Star God Saviors, yes, Star Children.
Yes.
I love the I love the term Star Children. I think it's a great way to reference the Tyranids. Again, though, Tyranids are one of those armies for me. I have never and probably will never get on board with.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, just that singular thought bothers me. I can handle the singular thought of the Imperium, like the single brain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And before the Necrons got, I think, their 8th edition update, they were very similar to that for me as well. They were just
Yeah,
sort
they
of
have a
like,
lot more personality now.
they do, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but they were very sort of like, we all followed the same line. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
it feels a bit, I don't know, you can't have a hero, if you know what I mean. But the Tyranids have them, have the Swarm Lords or Swarm. Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. They have Swarm Lords. I think there's more than one. But this is not Tyranid chat. This is Genestealer Cults chat.
Cult.
Do you want to tell us about Generation 2 then?
Absolutely.
Highbirds.
Hybrids.
That's what I said.
So,
I said hybrids. What are you
the
talking
second
about?
generation of hybrids are hunched and stooped. They're not in the matter of the old or infirm, but more like pressurized springs, ready to explode into movement. Like the generation before them, second generation hybrids, who also serve as acolyte hybrids, may have 5 or 6 limbs, but their eyes and mouth are more like their human parents, and they can make themselves understood in Low Gothic. Though their minds are still so alien that they defy analysis, they are still sapient enough to understand their host society. Some are even put to work in industrial brotherhoods of their kin, their uncanny strength and resilience allowing them to use heavy mining tools and explosives with far more ease than any mere human. So this is where your real heavy industry, your mining,
Yeah.
going back to our agri world, your logging, clearing plantation space, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
This is the generation that really starts bringing in the alien strength of the
Yeah.
hybrids and allowing them to sort of set them up as industrialists, basically.
Industrialists, just like, yeah, as we're going to open up a new manufactorum, we're going to need X amount of Gen 1s, we're going to need some Brood Brothers, but most importantly, let's get ourselves a ton of those G2s, mate. They are the unsung heroes of our uprising.
Yeah, they're pretty good at digging.
Yeah. They've got that down pat because they are dummy dums. So yeah, look, I mean, this is exactly what you're saying. The hybrid is that thing. I think looks very, very alien for me. In the sense that it's that haunched over appeal to it. It begins to look really not human. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They probably get away, like as you said earlier, in the Underhive, in the lower rungs of society, something haunched over with 3 arms and scuffling around the Underhive is probably not getting a second look from most enforcers. They're just like, that was a weird thing, but it is the Underhive. It's what we need to deal with out here.
There's mutants down here, we know that.
Yeah, or if you're on an agri world, you're just like, well, we're out in the boonies. This is, there's a lot of close relationships out here from people that shouldn't have close relationships. That actually makes sense. So we're going to ignore that thing. But they become, I guess they become the meat and potatoes of a Genestealer uprising as well because of that increased strength, because of that capacity to do more than a Brood Brother, to become more than just like a human with a few ridges on their forehead. They actually can go out there and unleash the damage and do the things that the hive mind needs it to do, or the brood mind needs it to do. So for me, they look the most alien for me in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. It's not really, I mean, obviously when you look at other aspects of the Genestealer cult, there's certainly some more alien looking things, but these, because they do have a similarity to the human form, that's what makes them so off kilter, so ugly looking. Do you know what I mean? And these I could see being used as terror troops. So, you send them to the next farm over, and you're like, we've had some resistance here for some reason. They're resisting our Brood Brothers, or they've actually managed to kill a Genestealer during the ovipositor process. What's going on? Well, we're not going to be able to take them over. We send in the hybrids and we devastate, and we leave a few behind. We leave a few witnesses behind who will go off and tell people that strange, haunched over 3-armed, 4-armed individuals were devastating our small community. They won't ever be believed, because by the time they get back to that community, it's all Brood Brothers.
Yeah.
So they're, to me, as I said, they're the most threatening and terror looking. And on Necromunda, these would be the things that I think they would fit in, but they would also not fit in as well. And I know that's very vague of me to say, but if you were at the very bottom of the
deeper
hive,
you go, you're all good.
Yeah, exactly. You nailed it. Perfect. But I think even the deeper you go, even some of the scabbies would be like, oh, he's had a bad day. I mean, I look bad, but he looks not good at all. So, in terms of a gang, the hybrid almost doesn't fit the gang. Do you know what I mean? Like, because the gangs from Underhive gangs, you need to be fighting. Again, imagine coming up against Cawdor and the Cawdor spot one of those. Your gang then becomes target priority number 1, 2, 3, down to 75 on their list.
Yeah, but I think if it gets to a point where the Cawdor are coming into contact with something that looks like that, they're already too deep to get away with it without a fight.
True.
If the Cawdor, or if on this agri world, your local arbos come past and they're like, whoa, look at this thing. It's this purple and blue human with chitinous plates on him, and it's got a person face, but on like an alien head. No, we're burning this whole farm down.
Yeah.
Like, once your cult is not allowing outsiders to see these portions,
Yeah.
and survive. If they're seeing your second generation, it's because your second generation are dragging them kicking and screaming to the patriarch to get implanted.
Yeah, right. Okay, yes, I will abide by that. But it's just I think of it in terms of Necromunda terms, and that's why I say, like, it does feel a little bit on the boring side of always having to go down the route of using Brood Brothers. But
Yeah.
the reality is, how do you have a Gen 1, how do you have a Gen 2 there without having a really good story arc for why your gang has them there? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Really big robes.
it has to be. And, like, not allowed to play cards because...
They're always cheating.
They're always cheating. They always have that third hand with an extra set of cards sitting in it, or an extra deck sitting there. So, yeah, for me, referencing it back to Necromunda, you could probably get away with a gang leader having a third arm and making it look a little bit bionic. They just go, we'll wrap that up in a metal sheath or whatever the case might be. But fundamentally, you'd be looking at purely just Brood Brothers as the way forward. Yeah. Which is a bit sad. Yeah.
Sort of moving in towards gangs and sort of coming into real... So basically the shadier sections of society. Why don't you tell us about Generation 3?
Gen 3, the true hybrid. Taking...
Yep.
What? I'm allowed to do... You
said
what?
Highbirds.
Oh, hi.
I know, you're doing it on purpose. First it was the girls, and now it's the Highbirds.
Okay, hybrids. Sorry, you narc. You're like commissar of the podcast. Taking a fully upright stance, the third generation hybrid is reminiscent of many mutants in Imperial society. Their foul features go unnoticed in the underhives of many Imperial worlds. However, on closer inspection, their alien form is revealed. They have heavily ridged heads, mauve or violet skin, and may even hide an extra clawed limb under their tattered clothes. True hybrids often become calomorphs and loci. So I think we just go jump straight into what a calomorph and a loci is before we delve too much further into the third gens.
Buddy.
The calomorph is a special Genestealer hybrid who serves as a hero figure for Genestealer Cults and uses his legendary prowess as a warrior and gunslinger to spread sedition and revolution on the cult-infested Imperial worlds. A locus is a Genestealer hybrid who serves as a potent bodyguard for the Magus and other senior leaders of the Genestealer cult. They often are their principal's eyes and ears, as well as their blades.
So yeah, this is where I think you were talking about the ones that could get around the underhives or get around the sort of shadier parts of your cities, or your sort of Moss Eisley type places, where
Yeah, but these are also your characters.
Yeah, these are your gangers. These are your sort of... These are the ones you want to be seeing on the tabletop, because...
Oh, so you reckon The generation 3s would be your gangs, not your brood brothers.
Oh, dude. I've got a Genestealer Cult gang here. It's the Generation 3 were the majority of my gang, because they're mutated enough that you can see they're Genestealer cultists, but they're human enough that you throw a heavy jacket on and they could walk through your average city and no one would bat an eye at them.
See, I'm viewing that needs to be much more well concealed. So the heavily rigid forehead and so forth.
If they go to places where mutants and abhumans regularly are allowed, that's what I'm talking about. Like, we know in hive cities, typically in the underhives, mutants and abhumans are dealt with much more leniently. People see them and just sort of go, yeah, well, it is what it is. Because they just see that mutation, poor nutrition, radiation.
Yeah. We've discussed that before. But if you think, I've been giving my example before about the corridor, if you were to engage, a redemptionist gang with your Gen 3 gang, then surely
if you're chewing bubble gum in a redemptionist's presence, he would find the smacking of your lips offensive to the Emperor. You Corridor or redemptionists or religious crazies they're a bad way of sort of defining what would be allowed and what wouldn't. I think.
Yeah. I see. When I read the Genestealer Cult Codex, I instantly thought you have to be hidden the whole time. You know what I mean?
No.
Yeah. And that's that. As we're having this discussion, I'm sort of feeling like maybe you don't have to be hidden the whole time. Maybe you just need to be hidden from the right people all the time, and everybody else. It doesn't matter.
Or live in a place that live in some of these cities and. Or be on a planet where mutation's never accepted, but living on a planet where it's just like, the fuel refineries down there, it's where they employ mutants, and you walk down and you're looking, you'd be like, these aren't mutants, these are hybrids. They're third or fourth generation hybrids, but you see, the skin, the bulbous heads. You're seeing the occasional arm, stabilizing something they're working on. You're just like, no, these are not your average mutants. You don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, righto. And so when there's mass numbers of them, you start to go, the cult of the clearly not untainted, clearly imperial devotees, they seem to be getting a lot more members. I didn't think they would, considering the size of their gang name, but they're kicking goals. I might go see their gang leader called Ovipositor. It's a weird name, but I'll go see him.
Well, that's a great thing we should probably touch on. The cults, like you mentioned it a little bit earlier, where one of the things they do is they be very good citizens. They act like very good citizens, because the whole time that these generations are making babies and we're getting second generations and third generations and fourth generations, there are still more people being infected by the patriarch, becoming more brood brothers. And those brood brothers are all out there still breeding. Brood brothers and brood sisters, and that infection is spreading more and more. Yep. And oftentimes you find with Genestealer cults, not everyone is infected. Not everyone carries that Genestealer taint. You said it perfectly before, where they lure in the people who want to improve their station in life, who want to be part of something bigger, who want to tear down the broken society that they live in. And these people think they are genuinely joining a religious movement or a political organization, or they just think they're joining a social club.
Or even what are they called? It's from our readers, from our listeners' Getting ideas. What are they? The Thralsian? Yeah, it was the...
it was Christians. Oh, come on, I know this.
Thelonious.
The
Thelonious.
Thelonious Fraterus, yes.
So
Yeah,
they
but
think they're
they were
potentially
Chaos
joining...
Worshippers.
Yeah, but they think they're joining them as well. They're just like, oh,
Yes,
I've heard great
yes.
things about you guys. Yeah, jump on board. Do you know, it's sort of... when you mention it like that, it sparks the idea of a little-known movie called Blade. I know you're not a massive fan of Blade, are you?
What?
Yeah, no, I'm joking. I'm being facetious, obviously.
I was gonna say, like, firstly, probably one of the best superhero movies of all time.
Yeah.
Secondly, Wesley Snipes, my man.
Yeah. You even do tax evasion like him as well. It's great. That's for all of our Australian tax office listeners. But I think it's the first movie, they have thralls. The vampires have thralls. And I could even see the brood, the Genestealer Cults and the brood lords having thralls as well. Do you know what I mean? So imagine there's mutants and things coming to them that want to join this movement. They understand what it is. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yes, I'm loving where you're going with this.
Yeah. So they want to join up, but the brood would look at them and say, we can't have this in our bloodline. We can't have this in our genetic makeup because you're already bringing mutation and infection to us. We don't, perhaps the DNA of the Genestealer is not strong enough to quash all that. And then you'll have some sort of aberration that is born from that, where it's a cross between a mutation and the Genestealer kiss. So,
that could be a great way of bringing in the actual aberrants, which is their enormous sort of mutant. What's the word I'm looking for? Mutant births from within the Genestealer cult, where they're these huge, powerful, they have superhuman endurance, and their whole mindset is they need to protect the smaller, weaker members of their cult. And it's weird that no one within the Genestealer cults actually knows what creates aberrants. They can just happen at any point.
Yeah, righto. Okay, yeah, that is true. So maybe having mutants there.
Yeah,
right.
Oh, dude.
So
you're actually giving me an army idea. Do a Genestealer cult, but you have your patriarch and your magus and that sort of stuff in the back, and as you're getting closer and closer and closer to the front, so in front of them you have your brood brothers, your fourth generation sort of like pure humans there. And as you get closer and closer and closer down the sort of rungs of the cult, at the bottom you have these these hybrids, not from humans, but from like beastmen and mutants.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like you do them, and you would play this army literally using them as like a meat wall. So you'd play them like I play Chaos Space Marines, just rush. You'd rush these sort of mutant stealers at your enemy, and knowing they're all going to die, but in their mind it's okay because the brood mind's telling them, you can die. You can die and you'll serve the Star Children. But the actual like military commanders and that are looking at it and going, they were useless anyway.
Yeah, righto. Yeah, that's cool. In one of the Genestealer cult books, they talk about a group called the Twisted Helix.
Yes.
They would suit this very nicely because they mess around with a lot of bioengineering and so forth. So they're just like playing around, and they just lots of mutant sort of deviations and just creating things that are just beyond even the realm of what the Genestealers would normally expect. Just having a pure play around, just go, let's connect the shin bone with the elbow bone and see what we get. But That's actually a cool army idea as well. Having this force of just like useless garbage, basically. That
Yeah.
that the imperial commanders would be like, well, we don't care for them. That's fine. Yeah, right. I like that. I really like that army idea. Hey, oh,
I
welcome
know it's a
season 2.
weird one.
Yeah, no.
Season two, we're talking armies as well.
I think we had an army idea in which episode was it? I think it was the Vansar episode. Yes, we did. We had an army idea in
Oh,
that.
the
Adeptus Mechanicus, the Audio Mechanicum or something like that. I can never remember their name. I'm terrible at these names. But I guess we probably should move on to... Oh, actually,
Yes.
I do want to
Also-
mention very quickly the Calamorph, just very quickly.
Yes.
So the Calamorph deserves a special mention, not only because it's an absolutely awesome character in 40k, it is something that can easily be incorporated into a Necromunda game or campaign.
Oh, dude, yes.
So, as I was saying, it's a perfect character to put into games, or more like campaigns of Necromunda. Do you know what I mean? So you can have this just wild, over-the-top individual character who's sort of like maybe like a mini-boss, you know, who holds a certain part of an Underhive settlement, who you need to defeat to be able to gain access to the tunnels that will take you further down into where the actual brood and brood mind is hosting, you know. So lots of speed, lots of movement, multiple guns, and just a killer of the highest order. And yeah, it's also got that cowboy appeal to it as well. But the miniature itself, if you bang, like, the miniature itself is perfect for Necromunda anyway, but if you bang a cowboy hat onto it, it's even tenfold, even more so. You know what I mean? But
the thing I love about the Calamorph is we've talked about so far about these people being sucked into the cult because they want to fight against the tyranny of their government. They want to become something more than what they exist within their own crappy rung of society.
Yeah.
And the Calamorph is that. He is a folk hero. You know, the Calamorph comes in and is this gunfighter who takes down corrupt sheriffs and, you know, judges and commissars who are passing down harsh punishments to the civilians just for wanting a real life. And so they see this Calamorph and they all of a sudden, you know, they're inspired to take part in their own acts of, you know, of terrorism or their own acts of, I shouldn't say terrorism, I should say revolution.
revolution.
Like,
well, from
that's-
an imperial perspective, we'll call it terrorism. But continue.
Yeah, from an imperial perspective, it's terrorism, but to them, it's them trying to improve life for their families and their children and their neighbours.
So maybe this is where my idea of Thralls becomes more so, because say there's a Calamorph in an area and it becomes this cult hero, as you say. This is where the Thralls would gather around and say, there's stories of this thing, you know, of Kelly having 3 arms, and we believe that Kelly has 3 arms, and we're mutants, and I have an additional arm, he's got an additional leg, he has a tail. So if a mutant can do this, why can't we do it? Do you know what I mean? And so they don't see it as a Genestealer infestation, they just see it as a mutant standing up against those around it. And so that's how they would become enthralled with it. And the Calamorph would then obviously go, well, I'm going to brand you all as Thralls until we can get you taken down and properly overposited.
And you actually get the kiss. Yeah, I like that. So they're actually meeting the Calamorph who's almost directing them.
They wouldn't need the presence of the Broodmind. They would just have the Calamorph guiding and directing this abundance of people or mutants who decide they want to become thralls to Kelly, the Calamorph, you know?
Yeah.
And then he would take them all. This would be a fantastic gang in Necromunda as well. A mutant gang that you build based around a Calamorph. You know what I mean? So maybe it's a hired gun that they can call on with relative ease, not all the time, but they're definitely led by their own. They're all branded with some weird looking, snake-headed icon or some weird form of Star Children graffiti branded upon their skin or their uniform and so forth. And they might even just go as far as to try and mutate themselves a third arm, So just like, oh, we're going to help this grow. So this is how you create a mutant gang around this character that they may or they may not ever meet this character, but they understand that this fight's against the Imperium, which is the thing that is the boot on their neck. So they rise up in conjunction with it. Do you know what I mean? But they two completely different purposes. Obviously, the Callamorph is fighting for the end goal of the Broodmind, whereas the mutant gang would be fighting the oppression.
Well, if we're talking about fighting the oppression, we also need to mention the Reductus Saboteur. They're another type of third generation, and where the Callamorph's sort of specialization is gunfighting, the Saboteur's specialization is explosives. So their whole thing is they get into where battlefields are going to be. They plant bombs.
Yeah.
And, I love this. They have a compulsive drive to tinker and perfect their craft until they're able to produce deadly chemicals from even the most rudimentary components. To that end, they are constantly on the lookout for suitable material, scouring toxic sumps and servitor graveyards for discarded ingredients to scavenge. Like, can you imagine they've found like the power coils from within some old mining servitor, and they're literally taking the tools of their oppressors and turning them into the method of their liberation. And that model is amazing. She's in the mining suit as per normal, but she's got the like a limpet mine in one hand, and then she's got two other arms on the other side. One about to push down the plunger on a classic cowboy style TNT, and the other one's just got like a wireless remote.
Yeah.
Like she's just got that many bombs going on. It's another
Loses
just
track
sick
of how many bombs it has. It's just like,
Yeah.
I've clicked 3 triggers and I've seen 6 bombs go off, so I have wired up something nicely, or all my time devices are going to go off very shortly. Boom, boom, boom. But so again, the Reductus Saboteur is something that you can easily form a gang around as well. They know of a certain region of the ash waste which is just off limits to the enforcers, even the bad zone enforcers, and it's because their vehicles get toasted all the time. Their crews are just getting decimated by like these hidden explosives and IEDs and Claymore type devices that are just wiping out their guys. And so every time they try and come there to enforce their rule, they're getting done by this saboteur. And that would give it a hero sort of folk status as well, where they just be like, we're protected here. We can get away with having a free state here for our Ash Waste Brotherhood, or whatever the case might be. And it's this false sense of hope. But imagine, now I'm just going with this story, imagine if that is a way to channel the enforcers further towards this free state. And so you are able to mass all a large group of enforcers to go there to try and take it out. And the saboteur is like, perfect. Last month I killed, maybe 30 enforcers. But because of what the mutants who idolize me are doing, they're drawn out, potentially 100 enforcers, and the plan from the Brood is to kill all 100, weakening their influence in the areas where the Brood needs it weakened. So there's a sort of a little bit of levels of play going on when you're thinking about it from that point of view. But again, a great way to form a gang and a great way to form a campaign based around just these individual characters. But let's not get too bogged down on just them.
Yes.
Well, I did want to move on, so we will move on to
Generation 4.
The Gen for the Primarchs.
The Primarchy?
They're all Italian
Primarchy.
names. Yeah.
They're all there. Yeah. Well, that poor Greek stealer cult, they just got looked over.
I'm thinking the aesthetic of the Genestealer Cult miniatures and the names. Somebody really liked spaghetti westerns in the old GW
100%.
development department.
Mate. But Generation 4, the Primarchy. By the 4th generation, the scions of the Genestealer cult can pass for fully human, unveiling themselves into positions of power to further the aims of their sinister cult. Most of these Primarchy serve as neophyte hybrids. A few members of this generation possess psychic powers and become Magus or Genestealer Primus. Other types of 4th generation hybrids include Clamavi, Nexuses, Sancti, and Biophagi. They are often noticed by their human overseers as dutiful, hard-working citizens, and as such, often find themselves above suspicion. Many of these hybrids join the Astra Militarum to spread their vile seed across the galaxy, starting new cults and claiming worlds for their four-armed patriarch. Between the 4th and 5th generation of hybrids, the Genestealer cult will prepare for all-out war. They will spawn hybrid metamorphs, creatures that echo the warrior bioforms of the Tyranid Hive fleets, and are built only to serve as vicious cannon fodder for the coming battles. See, this is what you were talking about before. They are human, bar for maybe slight ridges, a slight discoloration to their skin.
Yep.
Nothing beyond what you would see in a regular society. Like, you can walk down the street here in Melbourne and you will see, 100 people with 100 different skin tones.
Yeah.
And you think nothing of it. So why on a why on a hive city would you be able to look at someone and go, "Ooh, you're a little bit different."
Get the old colour palette up next to them, just flipping it up, just go, "Ooh,
yeah,
you are definitely hitting that lilac pretty hard. You are done, son." Right, yeah. So there's a little bit to unpack with the Primarchia though. These are the ones who get the trains to run on time.
Yes.
These are the ones where the efficiency starts going through the roof. This is the ideal scenario for the Imperium. Just no more 5th generation. Just breed 4th generation Primarchy. That's all you want, and everything works to the letter. Exactly what I was saying before. Everything's running on time. All the boxes are being ticked. But I do have another thing to say about them as well, is that they join the Astra Militarum, right? They go to other planets. What in your mind is how they start to spread the Genestealer cult influence? Is it an ideological thing? Or do you think they carry enough of the gene seed, the DNA, or not gene seed, but enough of the gene print and enough of the DNA to then begin to actually infect other planets?
Yes.
So both, ideological.
Both.
Yeah,
Both.
okay.
I truly believe, because by this point, like we've talked about it, it says there, they are all throughout society. They are your PDF. They are your bread salesmen. They are your commissars. They are your priests. They are your nobles. They are your doctors. So what's to say a squad of 4th generation don't somehow get arranged to join the the Astra Militarum? And because they're such devout individuals, they take their regimental priest with them, who is also a member of the cult, who is preaching this particular brand of the Imperial Creed that, as long as it fits within those requirements, no one's really batting an eyelid at it. the emperor has many hands and he brings you into his loving embrace. Only through service can you serve the emperor. And your average priest is just sitting there going, hell yes, brother. I love this.
Taking notes from the sermon, just like, this is fantastic.
This
that
is
little
great.
symbol you've got imprinted on everything looks weird, but I get it. I see the emperor in that symbol. I will spread this.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Do you know what, actually, when I think about this, having the answer you gave me there inspires something inside my brain about how they would spread the contagion, and that would be to get the contagi, form them up into, say, take a regiment from the planet or even a company from the planet and say, we're going to, Zindar 5 or something like that, and our 100 guardsmen are going to go train their PDF. So they go. And then they vanish. They vanish on that planet. Our, what do we call them, Primarchy and Contagi from planet 267 on the Vaya quadrant vanish into Zendari. And then they become the cult. And that is all Brood Brothers then. Then
exactly.
They're starting that process of Gen 1 right through to Gen 5, whatever the case might be.
Exactly. And that's the thing. That regiment has taken their what do they call it? Like their entourage with them. And it just happens to be these contagi where they're going with them. And just like we said before, they're hitting up bars. They've got attractive men and women with them. So people are going to want to spend time with them. And you know what I mean? All of a sudden they're getting, I should have called it this before. They've got that sexually transmitted cult membership coming through, and all of a sudden
an STC,
sexually transmitted cult. I love it. But they've got that going on for them, so that's being spread that way, and then all of a sudden when they go back to their original planet, or they go on tour as their Astra Militarum role would dictate, their entourage just stays behind, or it comes with them.
But see, no, what I'm saying is, don't worry about the regiment that's already established. The Primarchy creates 100 trainers and says, we're going to this planet.
Yes.
They disappear into the admin, never to be seen again. Do you know what I mean? So they get to that. Classic Imperium. They just vanish.
Yeah.
But the same principle applies for Necromunda. You could have a Primarchy go, I need to transfer 200 workers from the Theta Manufactorum over across in, Gothrel's Needle. I need them brought into Primus in this particular hive. Okay, those 50 workers, 60 workers, 100 workers, whatever I said, are taken across. And again, they begin working in this facility, but over time they're falsely killed or they die off or whatever the case might be, but eventually they end up spreading out across the society, and all of their disappearances are just manufactured by the Primarchy. And so then I need another 100 workers, and you begin to spread your contagion throughout. So I guess that's how, to answer my going question, that's how they would do it. They would yeah, righto.
But
cool.
On top of that, sort of jumping ahead a little bit there, the next generation after the Primarchy are literal gene stealers.
Yeah.
And they might just have one of them in the baggage. They're taking it to another planet, creating a new patriarch.
I want to come back to Gen 4, but we'll just quickly read Gen 5. You've opened the door on them, so we will go into it.
Yeah.
So these are the Puri, right? And these are, paradoxically, the Genestealer's pure strain DNA reemerges in the 5th generation of hybrids since the initial infection, giving birth to a full Tyrannid pure strain Genestealer, albeit one showing some physical characteristics of the original host species. Thus, the cycle of infection can begin anew, as the pure strain stealers have the potential to infiltrate other worlds and become a Genestealer patriarch. So, I guess the other thing to answer my question from before is the Primarchy could give birth to a 5th gen. But then do they just have, do they have baby making fun with any old person, or are they needing another fourth gen?
I think it would be any old person. Like,
Wow.
it could be first, second, third, fourth. It could be that bloke at the bar. It could be the girl
It just needs
from
the seed of life,
dance
or
class.
it needs the
It
womb.
just needs that
dance
seed.
class.
Yeah.
That's a good viewpoint on life in the Imperium / life on Necromunda for one of our Patreon episodes. We are doing a Patreon series about life on Necromunda, and Sam just brought up the idea of there's dance classes in the Imperium.
Yeah, well, I'm not for every Timmy, Dick, and Harry in the Underhive, but for your noble types, there'd have to be.
I like that they become an essential part of living in the 41st millennium is the dance class. It's like humans have danced since the beginning of time, so you can't take that away from us, Big E. That is ours.
That's all we have. But yeah, like I don't think it would be illogical for this regiment we've said there, who are moving to train those Xandarian or whatever it was, PDF. What's to stop them from taking a pure strain Genestealer in the baggage with them?
Yeah.
And when they have an opportunity, just go, boom, bring a couple of those trainees in, have them come in here and have a look at this, and they get the kiss. And all of a sudden, you've got two more, and these trainees are sitting there saying, "Oh, mate, I'm learning so many things from these, these blokes. They're teaching me new techniques because they're proper guard. They're not just PDF. You should come with me." All right, I'll come with you. Oh, I know a couple of them are going to be at a bar tonight. They told me to bring some proper, trustworthy blokes with me. Yeah, cool, done. Next thing you know, bing bong boom, you're being kissed by, Gerald T. Khaki Pants, and you're part of the cult now.
Gerald T. Khaki Pants is fantastic.
Yeah.
But the official title, now canon, of when you get kissed by a Genestealer is Bing Bong Boom.
Bing Bong Boom.
Bing Bong Boom. What's happening? Too late. Gotcha.
Too late. But yeah, but it's and this one here is a little bit of a shout out to a listener of ours, Pani, who, while talking to her, she got me on to some of the Warhammer crime novels. And they give sort of I should have mentioned them in our Patreon episode, but they give a really cool outlook on Imperial society away from armies and gangs and that sort of stuff. It's still a very sort of like underworld look at it all, but these are the situations where something like the Genestealer cult would especially thrive in, because at the end of the day, they are not an army. They are an underground organization. They are, they are terrorists. They are freedom fighters. They are religious cults gone awry. And the situations that are sort of touched on in these Warhammer crime novels are perfect ways for Genestealer cults to grow. It's factories. It's like the guy, the conductor of a train, who notices that this guy catches the same train every single night. He's always by himself, and we know we are going to be in pitch black in this tunnel for X amount of time. So if I have two of the Brood Brothers on the train with him, and we can snatch him up, give him the kiss, put him back, he becomes one of us. So wherever he's working every single night is now within our reach.
I like that.
Like,
see, that I like, the not just dragging the host down under Hive for them to get a kiss. It's almost like, I feel like it needs to be almost voluntarily sort of taken. Do you know what I mean? In the sense that the person goes, "I'll come with you. There's like, they have to have that embedded trust because their memories can't be corrupt. They can have that part of their brain that doesn't remember about the Genestealer kiss, but the rest of it can't be corrupted with fear and terror or something out of place. It all has to be. No. I followed my friend down there, and we must have had a bit too much wild snake. But yeah, I'm back here now, and I feel fine. I'm a bit sweaty, but who knows?
Oh, mate, I've got a killer hangover. It must have been a massive night.
Yeah, but there's no mistrust. There's no sense of something wrong happened. It's all like, no, everything was fine. And then by that stage, it's already too late, unless they, have some sort of psychic barrier or some sort of psychic protection to help them sort of keep the brood mind away from influencing them, which is a whole another kettle of fish as well. And that's where, the talk about Genestealer Cults and Ghast is an interesting chat.
You've actually given me an army idea.
Oh, go ahead.
Like a proper army idea.
A proper army idea. Ooh.
We know there are mercenaries in the 41st millennium, like human mercenaries, typically working with like rogue traders and that sort of thing there. Here's my army idea. A rogue trader, obviously with his personal vessel, for some reason has interacted with this group of Astra Militarum who just happen to be brood brothers, and they happen to have that Genestealer cult in the baggage. And he's picked them up thinking it's going to be a really easy way to get some cheap protection on whatever this run he's doing, transporting whatever illegal cargo he's got. And he's basically bing bam boomed, gets the kiss, and is now part of the cult, right?
Yep.
So here's where the army comes into play. This regiment are effectively working as mercenaries underneath the rogue trader. And one of the things they're doing is they're going to these human habitations and planets on sort of the fringes of, Imperial and Tau space, maybe towards like the Ghoul stars. You can put them wherever you want. Wherever there's going to be a lot of dark places.
Yeah.
And
there's not many of those in the Imperium, by the way.
There really isn't, no. But one of the things they can do is they're going in and, they're fighting these wars, and in acts of recruitment, they're almost taking on groups of the local population. So you'd have them all in different armor types, different weapons, different looks. But when they're bringing them in, they have to go through certain medical checks and that, because obviously we're all going to be on a ship together. We don't want to be spreading disease and that sort of thing. So one by one, we're going to go into the examination room, and it turns out that's where the doctor basically sedates them. They get the DNA passed on to them.
Yeah.
And so that you'd have this real broad spectrum of different sort of like, it's your classic, you have a Catachan squad and a Cadian squad and a Mordian squad. But you do them like that. But because they're working for this rogue trader who's allowed to operate slightly outside of Imperial law, the fact he has obvious mutants with 3 arms, the fact he has obvious mutants in these heavy robes with, chitinous... And it is chitin. It's not chitin. It's chitin. People who say chitin, you need to be flogged with like
they really
hoses.
Chit you off, do they?
They really give me the chits.
Yeah. I now pronounce it chitin.
Yeah, you would. But yeah, no, like I would do them almost like a ragtag thing there, but very militaristic. But have the rogue
They're
trader.
An army. They're still an army.
Yeah, they
still
are an
fight
army.
like an army. I two things I want to say about this. Firstly, I love this idea because I love the idea of mixed regiments for the Imperial Guard.
Oh, dude.
And it's something that we've seen in the 9th edition book. Finally, sort of came back and was like, "You want to have these guys? Have these guys. You want to have these guys? Have these guys." And it's just a beautiful way of showing the diversity of the Imperial Guard. We're all the same, but we're all different, basically. Secondly, I don't see them getting sedated in the medical check room. I see them meeting Dr. G. Steeler, It's just a Genestealer in a lab coat.
Yep.
Just like,
It literally is the Genestealer in like this oversized medical thing. He's got the stethoscope.
Yeah.
It's not even in his ears. They don't even have ears.
No,
it's just like in two of the ridge holes.
Yeah. He's got a few pens in there, a script. He's got a picture of the of his favourite Primarchy on his desk, and all the charts on the walls are all like humans, but like it's got reference areas on best place to kill. So it's just
and you just imagine these these gangers that have just been sort of rescued from this hive city because the cults come in to fight the orcs, and they're like, listen, get in, you can fight for us and get some sort of revenge for your lost world. And they're like, yeah, right, cool. And these gangers of these recruits are looking and just being like, listen, man, it's better than fighting orcs. Yeah, what are we gonna do? Like,
you gotta kiss me. Do you know what? You're not the first Doctor, so come on over.
But yeah, like I think that'd be a cool. Because I'm like you, I love mixed regiments.
Yeah,
but I think that'd be a cool sort of gang idea.
Yeah,
to sort of play on that brood brother aspect to it, and
you
can
mean
do those mutants from.
Mean army
well.
idea? Army idea.
The army idea.
Yeah.
Gang idea.
You're stuck in your necromunda. I think it'd be a great army idea, and even the vehicles themselves. So there is a standard format of vehicles, we know that, but each world would have a little bit of a variation on how they construct their chimera. Do you know what I mean? Or how they construct their Leman Russ. Perhaps they've had to have an elevated front shield on the turret of the Leman Russ because they haven't been able to quite replicate the armor according to the STC. So maybe where the sponsons are positioned on the hull are slightly different, things like that. So you could incorporate all these different things that allow you to just manipulate and go with whatever you feel like at the time whilst building your vehicles, even having in there some solar auxilia vehicles from regiments that have gone, we have an STC for this, we still use this. And so the rogue trader goes, cool, we're going to take that. Also, I'm going to be reporting into the Mechanicum, the Adeptus Mechanicus, sorry, and that you'll get a visit from them, but I'm also taking I think the Draconin, the tree of transport. I'm happy to be corrected on that one, I can't remember the name of it. But those types of things would allow you just to be so expansive in terms of how you can make this guard army look. And I think it would look bonkers, like so good. You could, you wouldn't be able to do it, but you could even, you could run a Medusa as a basilisk, and for those...
100% you could.
For those who do not know what a Medusa is, it is a very ancient and old Imperial Guard vehicle. I don't think they even have rules for it anymore. They might be in Legends. But it had a mortar, a big heavy mortar on the back of it. And, you could run that and just go, it doesn't have the range. Like, I just play it so it doesn't have the range for Basilisk. But other than that, it's loaded with, depleted Zyolium rounds.
It would also be cool because your squads could be so mix matched. Like this guy, instead of just las guns, this guy has a combat shotgun. They have auto guns because they would have kept the weapons that they would have taken with them from their own planets, from their own hives. Like, just a temporary army idea.
That's cool. But do you know what would be hard for me with an army like that? I wouldn't want to include tanks because of all the opportunities you would have with putting in different regiments of the individual soldiers. You know what I mean? Like the actual foot sluggers.
No. I see this as a primary. Like you would have chimeras. You may have a sort of maybe a command vehicle for the rogue trader or anything. This is implying he's heavily militaristic. I see his original reasons for wanting this armed force with him was because he knew he may have to interact with Xenos and he may have to just kill them and steal their stuff. But it was more of a last resort thing. not I'm going to go and seize this world for the Emperor. No, he's not that. He was not that kind of rogue trader to begin with.
Yeah, righto. Okay.
And the cult, their mindset is still insidious. It's not direct conflict yet. It's sneaky.
Yeah. Actually, it would be at this stage, wouldn't it? Because they'd be bouncing from planet to planet, so they're more about just spreading the word, I guess.
Yes.
Rather than actually formatting some sort of structured revolution at this stage.
Exactly.
Look, we are going on a little bit about this. A standard Lorekeeper process of just going down carotid holes and potentially even brood hive holes now. But before we start getting to the end of this, I want to sort of mention a couple of the Gen 4 divergence, I guess you call them, or characters that you can get from them. Because to me, these are the ones that I think would really influence a gang or a hive city. And first and foremost is the Magus. So a Magus, also known as a Genestealer Magus, is a Genestealer hybrid who has developed the abilities of a Psyker. A Magus serves as the Genestealer Cult's primary enforcer, propagandist, and diplomat to those outside of the cult. They possess psychic abilities second in potency only to those of their cult's Genestealer Patriarch. And we sort of touched on the Patriarch a little bit as well, but the Patriarch is what Sam said earlier in the episode about a Genestealer who boots off and just gets very, very big. He becomes a chonky boy, for use of a better term. And in that process, his psychic ability gets like crazy good. But the Magus, the one thing that I wanted to mention about the Magus here is becomes a diplomat to those outside of the cult.
Yep.
Those that the Magus is dealing with, they're the worst. They are the worst of their people.
What do you mean?
Because the Magus is clearly infected by something.
Well, I think it gets to a point where when a fourth generation comes in, you're probably going to be seeing enough of these people who have the slightly purple tinge or the slight ridges or whatever, or they look as human as you or I do. And whether they are part of this religious movement or this political group or whatever it is, I just think that the Magos is simply the most charismatic and maybe most influential member of the group. They may be seen as the political figurehead, so, they're the one who started out running for mayor of this little town and all of a sudden is now mayor of the whole city and maybe going for president or maybe going for like chief operating officer of their banking group or whatever it is.
Yeah.
They're that the figurehead to it all. The cult members all know that the patriarch's in charge, but this is the one that those outside the cult see as the leader of this group. That's how I read it. That's how I've always interpreted the Magos.
Yeah, no, I see it as that. I have to get away from the idea that obviously I can tell that they're infected by the Genestealer strain, right? Like when I look at the miniature, when I talk about them, I as a person outside of this science fiction world, I can see, I would never trust this person. But I guess
which one are you looking at though? Are you looking at the bloke or the lady?
The lady.
No, you're dumb. There's no, apart from the ridges and the severe case of alopecia, you would not look at her and see her as too different to your average person.
If she came up to me on the street,
she puts on a wig that has a fringe. You're not telling the difference.
Actually, do you know what? I think it's an actress called Zoe Deschamel or something like that, and they show her with a fringe and without a fringe, and it looks like two completely different people. So you are right here. If she did have a wig on with a good fringe, I'd be like, yeah, I can allocate 600 people to you. I'm not 100% sure, but
Consider it done. Yeah.
consider it done. I feel like I'm being psychic and manipulated, but you wouldn't do that because you're just a regular imperial citizen. So, okay. I stand corrected here. I feel sorry now for the poor imperial citizenry who have to deal with this nefarious and underhanded being who is corrupting them. Yes, you are right, Sam. She is evil.
Yeah. The bloke, on the other hand, looks kind of like a lizard man.
I
The
can't.
one in the brood coven box, the one that comes with the Magos, the Primus, and the Patriarch.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
his ridges come, if you notice, come all the way down to his nose.
Yeah.
Whereas hers sit properly up on the forehead.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, he would. If he came approach me, wig or anything, I'd be like, you are
He
clearly.
needs an emo fringe.
Yeah, he does too.
If he had a full blown emo fringe, you'd
Yeah.
just be like, I get it, man. You know, my father took me to the city once as well. You know, I saw a marching band. It's great. And he'd just be looking at you like, I'm actually here to talk to you about the coming of the Star Children. Just be like, yeah, man. You know,
Yeah.
they say those teenagers scared the living shit out of me. And he's just staring at you like, please stop.
Yeah, yeah.
Please stop.
I don't want to convert you. We're going to kill all them. Get the
We're
Gen
just
2s.
going to kill you now.
Yeah, just unleash all the Gen 2s on them. Yeah, look, he is... yeah, he's one who I would not trust, fringe or anything. But we'll go into our next one, the Primus. I think the Primus is important. It is the figurehead, so it's a Genestealer hybrid of the 3rd or 4th generation, which is, I think, is a bit interesting as well because it's also 3rd gen. So it's got a bit of that mutation about them, and the primary war leader or tactician of the Genestealer cult. And within, I'm thinking about Necromunda here as well. A Primus is important. It's sort of your gang leader. It's sort of your mover and shaker up on the tactical level. So
Yeah.
if you are coming up against House Orlok and their mining operation, your Primus will be the one who goes, well, let's work out where we need our best troops. Let's work out where we potentially have 200 to 300 fighting members. This needs some sort of organisation, and this is where the Primus would sit. So if they're ever leading a gang, perhaps that gang is their bodyguard. Perhaps they're decided to get their hands dirty. So, but again, another important facet and factor of the cult.
Just quickly with the Primus, though, I see him as the commander of that mercenary group I was talking about before. I see the Primus in like that 3rd generation with he's got the pistol arm, he's got the poison gauntlet, he's got the sword. I see him as the sort of the right hand of the rogue trader.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And in that sense, it would make complete logical sense to have something like that there, because the rogue trader almost takes on the Magos type role of I do the negotiations, I have the chit chats, I drink the tea, but when it comes down to brass tacks, I handball over to the Primus, and him and his 3 arms show you exactly what we can do.
Correct.
Yeah. The last one I want to talk about is the Clamavis. It's a 4th generation Genestealer hybrid who serves as the primary propagandist of a Genestealer cult, spreading its religious message to the populace through planetary communication networks in an attempt to gain political support. From a cult point of view, this is probably the most important figure because, the ideological war is 10 times more important than almost anything else. From a Necromundan point of view, this is the beginnings of the gang. It is the propagandist hanger on. It is
Yep.
it is all you. This is such a mutable character to put in your gang in any which way, shape, or form. It is the shop that you build into your marketplace that is producing leaflets, like actual physical leaflets that get handed out, and they're stamped in a certain thing. They're sprayed with a certain pheromone or whatever that attracts them to this particular part of the marketplace. That
Yes.
then the contagi go and have a little bit of kissy action with, you know what I mean? And this person, this being, is so important to driving the revolution, but it's so such a key factor in a story arc for any which way that you want to use the Genestealer Cults. So whether it be building an army, building a gang, building a campaign around them, this is an essential cog in that machine, I believe. And if you are going to wanting to use this episode as a bit of an inspiration to take on how to incorporate Genestealers within your games, look here first. Look at
Yes.
the Clamavus and fuel your ideas and engineer your ideas from this point, because this will give you everything that you need to know. All the rest of it is going to happen. You're going to have Genestealers using their ovipositor. You're going to have the contagi going out and breeding, all of this. The rest of it, like those processes that we talk about, is all going to happen. But the rest of it, the Clamavus is the instigator. Is this? This is the cog that turns the main spinning wheel.
Yep. Well, it's great what you said there. You know, you build the shop in your marketplace that's doing the leaflets and that. It mentions in sort of some of the background information that there have been instances where the cults have actually rewritten the Imperial Infantryman's uplifting primer and had entire shipments of it sent out with Departamento Munitorum shipments instead of the real publication. So they're literally writing this stuff to basically start spreading the philosophy of the cult before the cult even gets there.
Yeah, right.
Or, you
Wow.
know, have that issued to the Astra Militarum regiments that their brood brothers have infected.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, so much, like the first, you know, the first attack of any of these revolutions is the spreading of an idea. You can stop a soldier, you can stop a movement, you can't stop thoughts.
Yeah.
That's what the Clamavus does, is, you know, all of a sudden you're interrupting communications between your enemies. You're adjusting the information that's being spread.
Yeah.
I love the Clamavus of all of them. I think it's probably the coolest of all of them.
Are you talking about the lore behind it or the miniature?
Oh no, the lore. Oh, the miniature is sick.
The miniature is pretty damn elite.
It's so good. The two different heads are both fantastic, but he's got that loud hailer. He's tuning the frequencies. If you look on his back, he's got almost like this chain of what looks like cassette tapes connected on the back there to jam into like the loud hailer he's got on his back.
Right, I've never actually looked at the back of that miniature.
The Proclamator Hailer is the weapon it's called.
Oh, right. And again, it's one of those things that the miniature itself looks amazing and is quite easily adapted for Necromunda. Like, there's just no two ways about it.
Yeah.
There's very little you have to do to it to make it go perfect. This is exactly what I'm going to have in my gang. Obviously, removing the patriarch symbol above the big Vox unit is probably a good idea.
Is it?
Yeah.
Nah, man. It's just it's just a fancy sculpture.
It's it's just the Emperor in his Sunday pose.
His Sunday pose, exactly. Now, I really want to talk about one more there. I
Oh,
want
really?
to
Yeah.
talk about the biophagus.
Yeah.
And it is a Genestealer hybrid who acts as a Medicae and biomedical scientist for the Genestealer Cults and specializes in perverse genetic engineering and bioalchemy using Tyranid DNA. Their primary role is to determine new ways to spread and adapt the Genestealer curse to the needs of the cult. I love this. Like, I'm just imagining needle pistols with Genestealer DNA. So
Oh, right.
they're
Yeah.
just shooting their own, like just sniping random people in crowds
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
these tiny little pins, and it's, oh, what's that? It must have been a mosquito or something.
Yeah.
But no, they've just spread the infection. In fact, there's a cult that we'll talk. It might be the one I picked to talk about after this. That did something very similar as a way to sort of spread their disease there. But we've talked about this for a long time.
We have, yeah, a
And
lot more than I thought we would actually, to be
yeah,
honest.
this is an introduction episode to sort of us being able to talk about Hive Secundus. This is insane.
Wait till you get the Secundus episode, boys and girls.
So we've obviously primarily talked about the Genestealer cult. We're not really going to go into what happens when the Tyranids get there. We're gonna
No, I don't. I don't think that's because the premise of why we're doing this for everybody is that we want to be able to talk about the Malstrain. Now, I guess to spoil it a little bit, the Tyranids don't really want anything to do with the Malstrain. So
No.
the Tyranids arriving is not really what we're going to see happen with what's going on in Secundus.
So we talked about it a little bit earlier. When the broodmind forms, it sends out a beacon to the Tyranid fleets, and it draws the nearest. It's weird. I don't know if it draws just the fleet that the Genestealer came from, or it draws the nearest fleets, or it draws every fleet.
The way I read it, it feels like it's the nearest fleet. Like,
Yeah,
it
that
just
makes
says,
sense to me.
you come to me. And even if that fleet's already in dire trouble, like, getting picked off by the Imperial Navy or something, it still gets the call. So it's like, okay, well, we'll just add it to the list of problems we have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically. But so that's happened there. But with what's happened on Necromunda and the Malstrain, the Broodmind in Secundus is working different, and the Hive fleets want nothing to do with it. And we're going to go into that a lot more when we talk about the Cult of the Second Sun and the Malstrains and Hermiatus and what he's done there in Secundus. But Nathan, of the Genestealer cults we have read about and gone into and that sort of thing there, is there any particular cult that you like the most?
The cult that I liked, my one that I sort of picked, I guess, was probably the cult of the Twisted Helix. I did mention them before. They've got a few little nefarious things about them, but they also have this, I guess, sense of, human ingenuity and individualism still showing through. But we've got a little read on them. I'll read that and then I'll just give it a bit more context about why I like them. Hailing from the macro-alchemical distilleries that provide the Medicae class civilized world of Vijovium 3 with its exported medicines, the cult of the Twisted Helix has spread far and wide. The cult's broodkin skulk in enormous manufactoria that appear from the aristocracy's spires like the laboratory of some godly sage. All spiral glass pipelines and chimneys that belch strangely coloured smoke. At a high cost in volunteers' lives, the magisters of the industrial cult have learned how to extract the germ seed of the Genestealer and incorporate it into the curative syringe vials that form a major part of Vijovium's medical exports. Though the imperfections of this biochemical breakthrough have resulted in a great many aberrations and metamorphs, the process has seen the Twisted Helix quickly spread its curse across the Vajovium system and far beyond. So what I like about this, and knowing this from a different part of the Genestealer Codex, is, well, I'll give you just a little snippet of this. Though they had the chance to fend off the tendrils of the Genestealer taint, they chose instead to embrace it for curiosity's sake, and so were damned by their own hand. That is what these people did. They went, we can defend ourselves against this, and they were probably best suited to defend themselves against this because of the world from which they originate. They would be able to potentially beat the curse, but they're like, no, let's see what happens. Which I sort of respect that in a way. They're not like, they're not even...
Okay.
Yeah, but they're not even like saying, we want to be removing ourselves from the oppressive hand of the Imperium. They're just like, it's kind of like the Adeptus Mechanicus of saying, well, all tech is tech, so let's dabble in it. Oh, it's Necron tech and it's burning me from the inside out. That was a whoopsie-doozy. That's what's happened with these, the Twisted Helix. This Vajoviums have gone, oh, give us a little taste of that Genestealer ovipositor, and they've gone, oh, oopsie-doozy, we are now infected, but we don't mind this because it applies to our idea of thinking. It applies to our idea of, medical management. And so they're able to spread themselves right across the system and far beyond, but in this mutated version. And that was the other reason why I like the Twisted Helix, is they give you a fantastic story arc of being able to take a Genestealer cult army gang campaign idea, and if it is infected by the Twisted Helix, it can be a mutated version of that. It doesn't have to be that pure strain, because they're infecting the vials, the syringe vials that are going out. So you don't know what other chemicals potentially going in there that then is potentially messing with the Genestealer taint. So I really like these guys because of the story arc you can build from them. But to me, they're still the core of humanity holding through. So they're just like, well, we could let the Genestealers kick on at any time and really take control, but we've got this, from a medical perspective, we've got this under control still.
Yeah.
Am I delusional?
No, I agree with you entirely. Like, they did it to themselves, and they're just like, this is a great idea.
And I still feel like
also,
they're in control.
This is terrible idea.
Yeah. But they're in control in that sense that they're like, we can stop the tyrannies from coming here so we can keep experimenting and messing around with all of our bioengineering and so forth. But we aren't in control in the sense that we can now rid the Genestealers from our system. They're now, they're part of the everyday life that we lead. They're our neighbours. They're our best friends. But yeah, that's the cult that I really liked. It was the Twisted Helix. What about yourself?
I really like the Hive cult. The Hive cult is a prime example of a Genestealer infection that has spread like wildfire across a densely populated Imperial world. The planet of New Gidlam has 13 hive cities upon its pollution-blasted surface, each harbouring tens of billions of souls. All bar one is besieged from below by the same cult. Though the cult's emergence began in each hive with a spate of ritual killings, the violence soon blossomed into all-out war. The icon of the bladed worm form is carried by all the dynasty's members, whether they be brood brothers of New Gidlam's Astra Militarum regiments or the Hiver gangs themselves. So militarized is the cult that the icons themselves are weaponized, appearing in stylized form as knuckle dusters, throwing stars, or daggers. They are often used to slay those who stand in the cult's way, an act of rich in symbolism originally started by the cult's magus. Perhaps unwittingly inspired by the coming of Hive Fleet Leviathan, the Brotherhood of the Hive cult wear regalia of bone white and purple. There are those in the Imperium aware of the cult's infection of New Gidlam and their infiltration of the Astra Militarum defenders. However, each Hive city's populace numbers in the billions, and the cult is well versed in the art of secrecy, revealing its true numbers only when sure of victory. This is that classic. We have the military, we have the ability, we can go for it. Like, it's what we talked about before. They've taken over the army, and they are spreading. And even though people know they're there, they don't know where they are.
Yeah.
I love everything about this, and this gives you an excuse to do another one of those mixed forces. We've got your classic Cadians with the Genestealer Cult heads. You've got Orlok gangers in there. You've got Underhive scum with weapons that look sort of mid range, or you've got your Frateris militia types. Where they're carrying up bones of fallen brothers and sisters of the brood, of the brood mind. Like, it's, oh man, that's a converter's dream.
Yeah.
A force like that.
100%. And it allows you then to completely mess around with different weapon options, different weapon sets, everything like
Yes.
that, because
Yes.
your palette is huge, absolutely monstrous in terms of all the different types of populace that the Hive cult would be infecting.
Yes, exactly.
No, I love
Exactly.
it. They're a cool cult. I will say my second favourite was the Bladed Cog, who,
Oh, the Bladed Cog is sick.
because of the cybernetically enhanced broods, which is just, a whole level of silly dum-dum. And
Oh man, Skitari, Brood Brothers, and
Yeah.
oh man,
yeah, so just this brood that is just like, oh yeah, if the brood lord can't feel my arm, it doesn't matter, because my arm is built for killing, and it has a blade
Yes.
and 2 shotguns strapped to it, because that's what I gave up to attach. So they are definitely a second favorite, because they take that bioengineered notion and they just absolutely smash it face first into the cybernetically enhanced, and it's cool. Yeah, it's a great way to run them. But anyway, I guess we probably need to look at wrapping this bad boy up. So
this has been a sort of a great introduction to our next couple of episodes. Like, just giving a sort of broad idea as to who the Genestealer Cults are, sort of how they spread.
yeah,
It's been so weird trying to talk about things that aren't specifically Necromunda.
yeah, it has been a very strange take, and I guess I kind of wanted to keep bringing it back to Necromunda in a way, because that's what we're here for. But it's gonna, I mean, people might notice this episode is going to be significantly shorter than our Vansar episode, but
Yeah.
we are looking at this as a collective of episodes that we're going to go into the Maelstrom next, and then into Secundus as our final episode. And speaking of Secundus, I'm feeling a little bit inspired from everything that we've spoken about.
Okay. Go. What else do you hate about Vansar?
Well, I mean, it's a bit hard to hate more when you hate everything. So I was actually going to use some of the miniatures from the box just as as trophy items in my my Delacroix gang. So, oh look, season 2, first mention of Delacroix. You are welcome, ever-loving audience. You are welcome. No, I think, given, and I'm a little bit inspired by your army slash, we'll call them gang ideas, army slash regiment ideas, that I think if we can get the best gang idea, or no, sorry, best regiment or army idea sent through to us with a bit of lore, like not just like I have an idea, 2 lines, pump it out. I'm saying, like, give us 200 words, 200 words minimum. Is that what we're calling it? You want to call it?
Wait, what are you?
We'll call it 200.
Are you talking
words.
about listener lore?
We'll do a listener lore for this one, 200 word minimum, and the lore that we find the most engaging, well, the best, I guess we'll call it, for a regiment or army idea we will give a copy of Secundus to.
I'm sorry, what?
Happy season 2. Got to kick off somehow.
You yelled at me when I gave away, like I think I gave away a gang box and some stuff on our Patreon. You're like, oh, just giving stuff away. What don't you? And you're giving away a Secundus.
Well, see, no, I will tell you why. I will tell you why. Relax. I know it's your birthday soon, and I bought a box of Secundus for you, but I don't want to give it to you now. I want to give it to one of our listeners.
Oh, I fully support that then. Okay. Oh, this is sick. So, sorry, listeners, he's caught me a little bit off kilter with this one. Okay. So if that's this one here, and we're gonna do Malstrains and then Secundus.
Oh, we draw it at the end of Secundus. Perfect.
Well,
We give away Secundus with the Secundus
if we
episode.
hold off for one more episode,
Righto.
we are actually doing a listener lore episode after that. Remember we wanted to do one each quarter?
Oh, that's right. We did too. Okay.
If we hold off for one more episode,
Yeah.
we can dedicate the whole episode to it.
Perfect.
The listener lore of Genestealer Cults. So, armies, regiments, gangs, Genestealer Cult themed.
Right. So you want to do gangs as well?
Themed. Hell yes, because we're going to talk about the Genestealer Cults, gangs, and
That's a
Malstrains
good idea.
and Secundus after this.
Okay, so I'll modify the rules a little bit now. So if you send through your listener lore regarding a gang or a regiment or an army idea, and I'm going to throw it out there.
It has to be Genestealer Cult related.
Has to be Genestealer Cult related. So I'm going to put this one out there as well. Potential campaign idea as well. And we're talking Necromunda campaign. We're not talking a 40k campaign, but a Necromunda campaign. So you have basically four different elements that you can pick from. First is regiment idea. So where this, I guess, would say an Astromilitarum regiment or a PDF regiment, and how they've been affected, influenced, and how they go forward with the Genestealer curse, taint. Secondly is an army idea. So why is this army forming and what is its influence from the Genestealer curse? Third is a gang idea and how the Genestealer curse affects them. And we'll take Malstrain infection as well, but we'll see. I reckon you guys are going to have to listen to the Malstrain episode to get a better feel of how that will affect the gang.
Yeah.
And thirdly, a campaign idea, but it has to be a Necromunda campaign. And
hell yes.
How you would run that. So we're gonna give you four options to play with. Right now on the table is a box of Secundus, and that has the brilliant Malstrain and some other miniatures in it, and
the Aspirers.
Oh, and the old Aspirers and the Carriage Prime and some
Prime.
other miniatures. Thank you.
And some other miniatures.
So
and the Brood Scum. Okay.
Yeah. So we will
Can
discuss.
I enter this?
No. This is your gift being given out. But I actually had a lot of fun with the Listener Lore episode, reading all that stuff. So I'm actually really itching to see this. But if you are going to enter this comp, you need to make sure that it's clear for us to see. We do get a lot of emails, and if you put in the subject GSC Lore,
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, GSC Lore, put that in there. It'll help us to find it and be able to address it really quickly. So even if it's GSC Lore and then an extra description, doesn't matter, as long as it's got that in the subject title as the first bit of it, that'll make it a lot easier for us to do. Because, as I said, we do get a fair bit of emailing happening. And just to reiterate, our email address is underhivelorekeepers@gmail.com. So it'll also be in the show notes. Show notes as well. So, if you do that, Secundus, baby. And do you know what? You'll probably get it. Oh, no, you won't. By the time this episode, the next episode, it'll be after September 19th, but it's okay.
Well, looking at this, it would be probably the 9th of October.
Which is basically September 19th. It's got a 9
Which is
in it.
basically September 19th. All right. I'm a huge fan of this. I'm not a huge fan of apparently you giving away something you bought me as a gift. I'm a big fan of this though.
Yeah, well, as I said, we had a lot of fun with the lore, the lore last time when we got the listener lore coming in. So I'm really itching and looking forward to this. So yeah, please.
Just one more time, just pour one out for the freest of Ogryn's Belter. Genuinely, look, I have tears in my eyes.
Yeah.
Just saying his name.
And he held that bridge against Genestealer Cult. Well, beautiful synergy there, Sam. Beautiful synergy of thought.
If you haven't listened to our last our last listener lore episode, you will hear me scream the name several times. But yeah, it was so good. It was just so good.
Yes. Beautifully written, very engaging. Please listen to that listener lore episode if you have not already. There are some brilliant ideas from some brilliant minds out there who thankfully we've been able to give a forum to. And that's hopefully what we can do with your Genestealer Cult idea.
And then we're giving away Secundus. All right.
Sorry. Your Secundus.
My Secundus.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm not even angry. I was angry at the beginning of the episode. All right. So, buddy, closing thoughts on Genestealer Cults.
I will say, having read the Codex and having read the Secundus book, the Genestealer Cults make the perfect opportunity to have a campaign on a world that is getting flipped, that is in the midst of a revolution, and your gang getting the fire truck out of Dodge, and your gang could be a squad of guardsmen who realise there ain't nothing to fight for here. Let's skedoot. Let's move on. The other thing I was going to say, gang idea, and I'm happy for people to extrapolate on this for the listener lore, is Navy breachers who stumble on a space Hulk. One of them gets overposited. Have at it from there.
Dude,
it's a bit of a steal from the Aliens movie. That's why I didn't bring it up in the episode. But it's, Navy breachers getting done by it. They are brilliant miniatures, so much fun to put together, and getting a little bit of Genestealer influence on them, I think, would be fantastic. So, yeah.
I also just realised we never mentioned the fact that there are literally Genestealer cults on Terra, and they are engaged in wars with the Adeptus Custodes. But we'll talk about that on like a
maybe we'll talk about it in the Malstranic. So there's also something else that both myself and Sam watched in preparation for this was the
we can talk about that
in the Malstranic.
That in the Malstranic episode.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Do you know what? I was actually going to reference it to Harry Bob's lore that he wrote about the Ashwood Stranger.
Yes.
And it's a perfect matchup. But that's a little foretelling for you guys, and something hopefully we'll inspire you with later. But, good man, what are your closing thoughts on the GSC?
I think they're great. I think they're proper horror from beyond, but from within. And that's what makes them so insidious. It makes them so terrifying in the fact that those first few generations, you can look at them and go, there's something not right here. But you hit that fourth generation and they are just people.
Yeah.
They are just people, and their curse is underneath their skin. And they will be the guy working next to you on the production line for a decade, for 2 decades, whatever. It will be the mates from your footy team. It will be the bus driver that takes you to and from the train station every single day.
Yeah.
And without warning, something happens, and these people, a switch flicks inside their head, and that guy on the production line turns and just guts you with his saw because he needs to get past you to shut down production of ammunition. Or the footy team is all of a sudden pulling out auto pistols and just shooting into the crowd because they need to draw the police there so they can finally detonate the bombs that they've had under the field for months. Or the bus driver blocks traffic and, people from within the offices either side of the road bust out the windows and start unloading into the crowds of people that can no longer escape. It is... And all of the three of these things are happening at the same time, just to tear down the system from within. And it's insane, and I love it. I think
I am going to say this on behalf of our listeners. What? Are you okay? You are. You took that to a
I'm good, man.
You're
I'm good. I'm good.
I thought you were just going to give you they're crazy, they're terror from without, within, they're the untold terror. You went into some well-established plans inside your head. You've taken that to a very dark place.
You can tell it's not real though, because I've never played football.
Yeah, that is true. You tried to play soccer with me once, and I was like, oh, that's not good.
Running like a drunken newborn giraffe is something that has been said to me many times.
You said something in there, and we're getting to the end of the episode, so we'll bring it up in the Mel's Train episode about the Genestealer Cults attacking the regular populace.
Oh yeah, no, that's got to be in for the
we'll
Mel's
have
Train,
to, because I
this
don't
is
see
just
them
background
doing that.
information.
Yeah,
this is just background information.
But I like the way you envisage them as they are this revolutionary cell that are out there. But yeah, we do have a lot more to delve into, and we are breaking it up into smaller episodes. So we will see you on the Mel's Train episode.
Yeah. And as always, we're going to finish this one up with a quote. And this one is a little bit strange because I don't have the source, but I think it encapsulates the willingness of the Genestealer cult altogether. You may slay me this day, though you be but a dull-witted tool of the oppressors. Yet know that for each of us that falls, 100 more of the faithful fight on in the name of the Star Children. That is Samek Fierdsson, prophet of the writhing myriad. And that was our latest episode of the Underhive Lorekeepers podcast. I am Spamuel, and on behalf of the Lorekeeper team, thank you for listening. Please follow us on our social media pages available in the show notes, and don't forget to follow and review us on your preferred podcast platform. As always, if you have questions, complaints, corrections, or if you too would like a friendly and informational document on how to overthrow your particular type of oppressive government, please reach out to us at underhivelorekeepers@gmail.com. Thanks.